All right.
I've hit record. I'm awaiting my check. I'll do 55 in a minute.
Sure.
All right. I almost just clicked stop after we clapped.
Perfect.
I got my funny money from the government. My
the 600.
My 600.
600 out of 1,000, which will, or 2,000, which will be completed at a later date.
Maybe.
Oh, I think it will.
Be so fucking fun at me if Manchin is like no.
Well,
and
so
then they can't get the votes.
He said no, and then people across, like, they bought a ton of ads in West Virginia, and like billboards the next day started going up that was like, Joe Manchin doesn't give a shit about you, can we please finally get rid of him? And then he reversed course and said that he would vote yes.
Still think they should send every American 2,000 bitcoins.
I actually think there is a potential that they're going to figure out how to get out of it by using the Senate impeachment trial as a, like, well, we got to focus on this. And then none of that shit happens.
But Biden could just executive order that shit, but
he could executive order the payments.
Yeah,
I don't know that he can executive order the unemployment stuff and the minimum wage.
Yeah, maybe that stuff not. But
I actually don't know if he can executive order the payments either, because it has to do with budgeting, and generally budgets have to go through Congress.
Bernie Sanders, Senate Finance Committee chairman, is just going to be like,
Bernie won't let it go.
Yeah. There are enough people that won't let it go that it'll be a pain in Biden's side.
Yeah, hopefully. That's the final push for a lot of this stuff. Is I think his policy so far has exceeded my expectations. However, some of it has to actually go through Congress, and there's every opportunity that this is like healthcare during Obama's first term all over again, when it was like, we're going to get it passed. And then they had a super majority and didn't do fucking jack shit.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Democrats, baby.
Yep. They denied Mitch the filibuster, at least. I didn't think
for now.
I didn't think he was going to have the spine for it.
Yeah. Well, he's, is he New York, isn't he?
Yes.
He'll probably have a tough go if he, like, that's one of the reasons he's like $50,000 student debt forgiveness. Is he on board with the $2,000 checks? Was he on board early?
He says he is. Yeah. Pretty much all the big Democrats say they are.
Yeah. Because I think he's probably scared for next election. He might get like after what, you know, it's like a different thing than with like AOC, where it's like a regional thing. But
yeah, I don't know. Pete Schumer's pretty embedded.
Yeah, but I mean, they thought that what his face was in the House, but then AOC was like, "No, fam, it's mine."
Yeah, yes, the House elections are kind of a different.
Yeah, definitely,
like you said,
definitely. But I think they're, on some things they're gonna say,
he hasn't been in office that long, so you could be right. I thought he was in office for a lot longer than he has been.
Yeah, he's probably worried about like Cuomo coming around and trying to take his spot or something.
Yeah.
God, fuck. Yeah, that'd be goddamn.
Yeah.
Or de Blasio. I don't think de Blasio wouldn't get there.
Might be able to do less harm by being in the Senate than being the governor of that state.
Yeah, maybe.
Anyway, we don't have to keep talking about American politics. We have people listening all over the world.
Yep.
American politics suck. They're better. They're quite a lot better now, but they still suck.
Hello, and welcome to episode 156 of the Gaming Fix podcast on January 22nd, 2021. I am your host, Andre Cole, aka your partner's favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger line.
Andre, you might want to do that intro over again. You're really close to the mic and it's blowing out and being extremely distorted.
It's very boomy.
Okay.
Yeah, like it was really distorted last week too.
Okay.
It's like
What do we got? Okay, gain is all the way down.
I think if you just
move back.
yeah.
Yeah, if you just move back, it'll be okay.
Yeah. If I talk real low like this and get okay.
Yeah.
That
Much
just sounds
better.
bad. That's not because
I know
of,
it's perfect.
You gonna sing a
Alright.
sea shanty?
What do you do with a drunken sailor? What do you do
He
with
did
a
that
drunken
one.
sailor? Hello, and welcome to episode 156 of the Gaming Fix podcast on January 22nd, 2021. I am your host, Andre Cole, aka your partner's favorite sea shanty.
Oh, even better.
I am joined today by Pat.
I wish I knew more sea shanties because I played Assassin's Creed 4 and I like sea shanties, but I don't think that my partner likes sea shanties. So her favorite sea shanty is when I don't sing them.
It's totally fair, even though they're very good. And also joining us this week, Alex.
I have yet to encounter any of these sea shanties in the wild.
Oh man, it's so good.
I'm not on TikTok, and I live in Japan,
Same.
so like, just
I
not
don't
hitting
really
me.
use TikTok much, but I
You see the talks,
yeah, and I see them on Twitter, and then I put that YouTube compilation of them on loop because it's real good.
Mm-hmm.
We have at my job, we before COVID, we had a stereo setup with a record player that was really good because it was like those old ass speakers that are like 3 to 4 feet tall that are just like big stacked speakers and sound really good. And we had a album of sea shanties from the 70s that would get played whenever anyone came in with a hangover, just to sort of torment you a little bit more and drive home the mistake that you made by getting drunk on a work night.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
But those sea shanties are horrible. The album is like punishment. Whereas the current run of TikTok sea shanties is much more pleasant to listen to.
Authentic sounding. Get some scurvy in there.
No, I think that the album we had that's horrible is more authentic sounding.
Okay, that had scurvy on the record.
Yeah, the current run of sea shanties is much more like, what if people who don't live on ships and have pleasant voices sang these songs?
Not enough salt in their lungs.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Need some more
Well,
asbestos.
No, speaking of salt in the lungs and asbestos, those are things that could kill you. Much like the game that we all played this week,
It
Hitman
could
3.
kill you?
Salt in your lung? I mean,
No, Hitman 3
Agent
could kill you?
47. I mean, hey,
You could die trying to go through the save transfer process.
Oh my
because
God.
it's so frustrating and takes
or
so
the
long.
disc could like you break it and like get like cut your throat or something with sharp like in your eye,
I don't have
in your brain.
I don't have a physical copy of Hitman 3 on the PC. I don't believe those are being offered.
I
Look,
wonder
I'm
if what could they?
offer a
Could they
physical.
be?
They could.
Is
I
there a
don't think that
physical
they
copy?
are.
There has to be a
No.
physical copy for
Not
like
on
the
PC.
PS4.
For
Oh, okay, for
PS4.
PC,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, PC version, yeah.
Yeah, consoles, yeah, sure. Although I don't know, maybe there is. I don't know. I don't think they put out a physical
has
copy of Hitman 2 when it launched.
It's Hitman 3 is only available like they're doing like I thought there was only to like limited run games. I thought
Maybe, yeah. That would make sense. There's honestly, a lot of physical copies don't. It's like Ubisoft puts them out. First party games usually come out physical. EA games come out physically. But there's a lot of stuff. Like there's a lot of Japanese games that make it over that are full price that don't come out physically, or they have a very limited release through a company like Limited Run.
Or maybe it's you only get like there's like a passport thing that you only get if you order through Limited Run games. Maybe or other retailers in different parts of the world.
I'm looking at EB Games, and they have physical copies of Hitman 3 for PS4, PS5, and Xbox Series X.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. It's just the passport thing is only through Limited.
Got it. Okay. Is it a real passport?
So yes,
it's
could potentially
with like a bunch of like Hitman history in it and like locations and the lore.
Yeah, but yeah, you could potentially break that disc and murder yourself.
You could.
Hitman 3 in stores now.
Accident kill, silent assassin.
Dog, that import process is broken.
It's really bad. We can get the negative out of the way up front, which is that.
Okay, well, no. Let's get the good out of the way first. It's a good game. Let's get the bad out of the way now.
Well, yeah.
There's more to say about it being good.
Yes, but I do think
being bad.
like
but the launch and the general like setup process, if you want to transfer stuff from like your progression history from previous like Hitman 2, it's not great.
No, I almost think what they should have done is just said, look, Hitman 3 is out. It's an Epic exclusive. You can buy it on Epic and buy the access passes, or you can wait for the Steam release and get your access stuff like you did with Hitman 1 in the Steam release, and fuck you, sorry, but we are taking the cash. I think that they almost just should have done that and not even fucked with a save transfer at all.
But they haven't even like they know you have the mastery stuff, at least with the PC version, because like you could say, oh well, if it's like the console version, you could have rented it and like it's but like the fact they know you own the game, your account is linked, like your Steam account and your Epic account are linked to this account, like the IO account, and they can't just go, okay, yeah, you own it, here you go.
I mean, the only thing I can think is that their infrastructure that is part of this issue, which we haven't said, I don't think, is they initially said you would be able to, quote, import locations from Hitman 2, which I don't think I'm an idiot. To me, that read as if you own Hitman 2, you can play the levels in Hitman 3 on Epic.
Well, that's what they did before.
And that is what they did before.
The same, same platform, same store.
And instead, right before launch, they were like, you will have to buy it again. Like 5 days before launch. And then like 3 days before launch, Tim Sweeney was like, oh, no. We're the good guys here. No one ever should have to rebuy a game on Epic to access content, so we'll figure it out. And who knows what their solution's going to be. They haven't figured it out yet.
But boy, howdy. But the stuff they have figured out
is not good. So
no.
But to your point, Andre, I think what's the issue probably is yes, on your IO account, it can show that you have progress in Hitman 2. They probably have no way of meaningfully pulling that information into a database that is linked to Epic licenses, because I would assume the Epic Store is not equipped to handle that kind of thing, because the Epic Store is fucking terrible still. So the issue probably lies in the fact that there's just no way to like pull, because I mean, you're talking about millions of people, right? So there's no way to pull that data over cleanly where it gives everybody the access they're supposed to have. And my argument is Epic should just eat the fucking cost and give everyone the Hitman Pass.
They gave everyone Hitman 1, so like it was free. Like you had to redeem it, but like they made Hitman 1 free. Hitman 2 isn't even on the Epic Games Store.
Yeah, and I didn't actually redeem the free Hitman 1 because I didn't think about this stuff, and usually I don't redeem free Epic games when I have them on Steam because I don't want to. The Epic library is already shitty, so I don't want to clog it up with stuff I don't need. But if you buy Hitman 3 in the first 10 days, you also get the Hitman Access Pass for free, even if you didn't redeem it in August. So it's like, or whenever it was free. So it's just like they should just make the Hitman 2 Access Pass free for the first year, I think. And then if people buy it after that, then it's like, well, you could buy it on Steam because it'll be out on Steam after a year, or you could buy it on Epic and go back and buy the Access Pass.
If I hadn't spent $100 on Hitman 2 Gold Edition, I would not.
Well,
I would just be like, yeah, whatever. I'll spend like the $20 to get like the full thing, or like the $8 because it's on sale now. But they want to pay you. They want you to pay $100 for the Hitman 2 levels.
Yeah, the Gold Edition normal price is $100. What the fuck?
Which is what it was at launch 2 years ago. Like
Hitman 1 is $60.
Like IO get paid, but what the fuck?
Yeah, what are we doing here? I have to imagine they're doing okay. Like, and I also reject the last thing I'll say, and then we can talk about the actual save transfer stuff, Alex. But I really don't like. I like IO as a studio, but I don't like this, like, well, Epic made them do it. It's an Epic problem. It's Epic's fault. When it's like, no, IO, nobody tied IO's hands. Epic brought them a Santa Claus bag full of money and said, we want this exclusively. We'll work with you to figure out how to transfer saves over or whatever. And then IO said, sounds great. We would love to have this money. So like the degree to which PC players are being fucked over by this is absolutely one where IO and Epic are both complicit in it. There is no like, you do not have to you don't have to cape for IO because they're the developer here. Like it's good that they're getting paid, but it's their mess. So
yeah.
Anyway, the save transfer stuff is also bad.
Yes. You log in. You have to log in and log out and then log back in.
So first you need to have an IO account. So if you do not have one, you have to create one. So you log into that, you get it all set up. And then it's like, okay, link your Steam account is the first step. And the way to do that is you have to log out of your IO account and then log back in while also logging into your Steam account. Okay, now you have your Steam account linked. Great. Okay, so now we can pull your saves from Steam. Now we need to put them into Epic. So what do? We log back out and then log back in alongside the Epic account. And then there's a whole transfer process that you have to log out at least 3 times just to get this thing to work.
For whatever reason, I think they encouraged you to link your Steam account to an IO account in Hitman 2 because I already had that linked.
Yeah.
So all I had to do, and I read an article that was like, here's how this process is going to work. So I did the whole link your Epic account thing first, although it still doesn't make any fucking sense how you do it because, like you said, it doesn't tell you anywhere on the website that what you have to do is log out of your IO account and then click login and then click login with Epic and then click link to link it instead of new account, which is really ridiculous.
It's so
but
dumb.
Then I had those accounts linked before I even launched Hitman 3, which made the process a little bit less confusing because then all I had to do was like click the take me to the save transfer thing. But then the save transfer thing is this weird, bad looking like the text is looks like
a terminal.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, it's like a command prompt looking sort of thing. I mean, it's not, but you click through it, but you like click through all these prompts and steps, and there's like paragraphs of text that are warning you about the consequences of your actions and stuff, and it's so bad. And then technically, depending on their load, if 503'd for me twice during the process, and I had to start it over. Depending on their load, it can take like a long time for the saves to actually transfer.
Yeah,
and
apparently.
you have to go to like a queue manager thing to look at your transfer requests which implies that I guess they had to set up the infrastructure for people to do multiple transfers on different platforms. But I mean, who really is transferring saves on more than one platform? So it's just weird.
Yeah, because theoretically you could also link your PSN or your Xbox account and use that as your source that you're porting over to
But
Hitman
only
3.
to go to Hitman 3 on those platforms. You can't take those saves and put them in the PC version on Epic. But yeah, the whole thing is just and a couple friends of mine just can't access the save transfer site for console save transfers, which no offense to them if they're listening at all. It was funny because when I was complaining about the Epic PC shit, they were like, this is why I just play it on console. And I was like, yeah, okay, good for you. And now they can't, the console site just isn't working for them.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I don't.
Which also, that means if you did this on PlayStation, you would have to use the PlayStation browser. Because it still pops a browser window.
But you could do it in on a phone and just log in on your stuff. Or
how many people?
PC.
How many people would actually? Not that I'm picking on mainstream gamers, but how many people who get that prompt who are like, "Oh yeah, I played Hitman 2. That game was great." Think about that. Instead, they're just going to go through the prompts the game gives them.
Probably, yeah.
Which is going to pop a fucking browser window on their console.
So I'm looking more at the Epic Store, and I'm getting even more mad because so the deluxe edition is $90.
Which I bought the deluxe edition of Hitman 3.
I'm mad I didn't because it's got escalations and shit that are only and
I love the escalations. So
yeah, and if you want to buy it, I bought the normal version. If you want to buy it after the fact, it's $35 on top of the $60, so it's more expensive.
Yep.
This, it feels bad, man.
Yeah,
the everything outside of the game feels bad.
Yes.
So and it can impact the game. The thing I was kind of alluding to, Pat, when you were saying that it can take a while, was I wasn't really reading the warnings that closely, where it says, "Hey, when this save transfer completes, it's gonna fuck your shit, so be careful." And I got an hour and a half into the game, maybe 2 hours, and apparently in the background it had completed its save transfer and had just obliterated all of my progress up till that point. So I basically had to start the game over, just because it had taken an hour or an hour and a half, and then randomly decided, oh, hey, by the way, all of your progress that you've made and all of the saves you've made, those are now invalid. You can't use them.
Yeah, it's
it's bad. The only reason that I anticipated, and I don't know why I did, this is not me king shitting, I anticipated that it was going to be a mess, so I did a lot of research beforehand to try to make sure it doesn't get super fucked. And I can see how it would, in fact, be super fucked for anybody who didn't do all of that research. Because there was a moment where you had said oh wow, this is messed up, and I was like, you got more to do, and you were like, no, I think I finished it, and I was like, you sweet summer child.
Yeah. Well, in mine, I got it transferred fine, but then it didn't it was also saying oh, your mastery is 0 on all the levels from Hitman 2, except for one where I had 6, but it had all my experience on them. And I was like, well, I don't know what else I'm going to do. I'll just do it. I don't care that much. I'll play them eventually once they put the Hitman 2 levels in for free. And then I went through, and then when I got on today, 12 hours later, it was hey, you did it. We finished transferring. So I don't know. But it didn't erase any of my stuff at that point.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, basically everything outside of the game, not so bueno. But the game, pretty great, actually.
The game has some technical stuff too,
oh god, it has definitely technical stuff. I don't have any voiceover for any character other than Agent 47.
Anything like that?
Yeah, I haven't run into that, but like you said, there's a Reddit thread about that. I have run into sometimes the subtitles for the important ambient dialogue don't pop when there's people talking about a thing that is actually relevant and you want to hear it, but it's not the end of the world, because I usually play with headphones, so I can just listen close,
it's tough when you've got multiple, like you'll have like a voiceover in your ear, and then you're also like, wait, I want to hear this side, or like, this story mission or whatever, mission story,
and I don't know,
I can like try to figure out what I want to do, but then they're like both talking and the subtitles only show up for one of them, and
I have like, I don't really have like sensory related stuff, but I also have a really hard time parsing when multiple people are talking at once. So it's hard.
On the second map of Hitman 2 or Hitman 3, it is basically a big manor, and there's like a murder mystery going on, and there's a section where it's like there's a photographer and he's taking a picture of the family.
Yep.
And you're supposed to interview the family and get like information from them about their alibis and everything. And I had one more person I needed to talk to. And so I walked up after the picture was taken. I started talking to him, and everyone was like, "Whoa, what are you doing? And like, get out of here!" And they kept talking over like what the person was saying. So I can't hear what they're saying, and the subtitles were like iffy on that. And I was like, "Oh my god."
Yeah, there's also the issue in the first level in Dubai. They basically just like found some like. I think what it is it's just like what white people think Arabic looks like on the signs, and just kind of wrote it on. It's not like real Arabic.
So what I was seeing was the problem was it went left to right and not right to left.
Got it. Okay.
Which is it was correct, but the way it was rendered in the game was like the wrong way, so it was incorrect. And it sounded like part of that was like maybe the tools that
makes sense.
Devs use strip out like the special character that makes it read right to left, when it's copy pasted or whatever.
Rami Ishmael was talking about it on Twitter, and one of the developers responded to them and said that they're treating it as a bug because it was an unintended negative. I forget how he qualified it, but that'll get fixed. So. Seems like they are diligently fixing stuff.
So yeah, it was just like not looked over closely. But yeah, outside of like all this technical stuff we're talking about, like the game's fun. It's a real good Hitman. I finished it like just like 2 hours ago.
I had to go to bed. I'm gonna finish it after the podcast.
I'm on the 3rd level.
And I'm on the 5th level.
Is that the Argentina? Okay, yeah. So you've got one more to go.
Well, I have to play Argentina. I haven't played Argentina yet. So I have Argentina and Carpathia. But it's a good game. Yeah, I think the way that it's very aware that it's the 3rd game in this Hitman series, in a way, not just narratively, but in the sense of like they didn't just do 6 more levels. They're each kind of a deconstruction of different concepts within Hitman that also bring those concepts forward with new gameplay ideas.
Yes, definitely.
Which is very cool. And like to me, like the Dubai level is very much an examination of that, like paths crossing over themselves and like lots of different routes to get places. And then the second one is that more like there's a story happening in this level that you can sort of play along with by doing that adventure gamey route.
Yeah.
And then the 3rd level is much more like sandbox, like the classic Hitman sandbox.
Sure, yeah.
That is very much like, we don't have mission stories for you this time. You just need to figure this out. And this is like a playground to do it in. And then like the 4th mission is much more that like very dense, intricate, like cause and effect, where pushing on something in one area can have an effect on the whole level. I don't know. It's very cool the way that they're layering that stuff.
Yeah. It is cool the way that, like I said, the second one is like a murder mystery, and like that is probably the most different level in the game, I'd say.
Yeah.
Just because you're you're spending a lot more time investigating and like figuring out what happened here rather than plotting your kill. At least that's what I did.
Yeah.
But even that, I had a weird kind of immersion breaking bug, or not even necessarily bug. I don't think it just, something happened and then some characters reacted to it and then other characters did not react to it. And one of the characters who did not react to it really should have, because it basically completely changed what was happening. But you know, it's whatever.
Yeah. And
it was still a neat thing.
The second mission does encourage you to like play it as that adventure gamey kind of thing, but you don't have to. You can still mess around. Like I found ways that you can certainly murder the person involved and still complete all your objectives.
Yes.
So, but it certainly does lead you down that path. And if you do follow that path, like you could probably spend like an hour with it, treating it like an adventure game and like you're actually doing a mystery.
That's what I did.
And it's,
But I did not murder the person.
No, nor did I, but I still completed it.
No, I
however,
did.
I will say one thing that's
Or
weird about
baddies.
that murder mystery thingy is that you can have basically like 3 different outcomes and they're all valid.
Yep.
So I
Which
think
I don't think that's a bad thing. It's just I found that a little strange.
yeah.
Well, there's a true answer to the mystery, but you can spin it 3 different ways, and only one of them is the truth, but all 3 of them will give you what you need. So,
yeah, true.
Interesting.
I think I found the true answer, but I don't know if it involved going to a room that you needed a thing to get into that room with.
Like a key?
You could call it a key, but it's not actually a key.
Okay, we can talk about.
Okay.
But yeah, if you've seen Knives Out, it's not unlike Knives Out.
I have
It's
still not seen Knives Out, but I want to watch it this weekend.
You should watch
so
Knives Out.
It got spoiled for me on Twitter.
That doesn't
and
matter.
That
It's
made me
still
mad.
really good.
But
the character stuff is really great.
I'm willing to watch it finally. I was just angry about it for a long time because I was excited about that movie and I missed it in the theater, and then it was on streaming, and then someone on Twitter was just like, it's so interesting that blah 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 blah, and I was like, what the fuck are you doing? It was like a week after it hit streaming.
That's amazing. But it should be noted, the story that they're telling is not the same. It's more they're creating the aesthetic and the scenario, kind of.
Yeah.
So, but it's like,
the big mansion murder mystery is not necessarily the most unique take, but like secret passages and stuff and whatnot.
Yeah. And I will say, I noted something, and I haven't seen anyone talk about it on the net. There was one Umineko reference in the second level that I was into.
I honestly have a hard time believing that it would have been intentional.
No, it seemed very specific. Anyways.
I don't know that the Venn diagram of you might be the only person in the Venn diagram of Umineko players, Hitman players. Like
I
in
doubt
that tiny little, it's like you and like 10 other people in this tiny little.
Everyone else who's playing Umineko is still trying to finish it, and they can't play anything else until they do.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's too fucking good. They don't want it to end.
What was I going to say? I like the way the density
You move it.
I like the density of some of these levels. Like the degree of options is really cool. The thing that I don't, Cameron Kumselman was talking about this a bit on Waypoint Radio, and I mean his review, I believe, on Waypoint. But the one thing I'm not sure that I love that may in the end make Hitman 2 the one that I enjoy going back to more is in Hitman 1 and 2, the story is very... Hitman 2 like has more story than the first game and than Hitman games in the past generally, but it's always like, here's the justification for why you are at this location, and now I will leave you to prepare. And then you go into the level and there's stories within the levels and it's tied to the overall plot with who you're killing, but it doesn't really, each level is very discrete. It's very much like you go in and you kill a guy. that's the thing you do. Maybe you do another objective, but it's mostly just like you go and you kill the guy, and it's a very focused experience. Whereas in these Hitman 3 levels, it's much more like, you know, like in that first Dubai level, you've got like Gray talking to you, and he's like, well, I'm going to do this while you're doing that. So it doesn't feel like a sandbox as much.
You had Gray talking to you.
Well, yeah, that's fair. And like the Thornbridge one, similar thing of like, there's this narrative thing that's going on around the edges. And like when you leave, I won't spoil anything for the story, but like when you are leaving the level, there's a little bit of story shit that like kind of comes in over the radio and stuff. And to some extent, I wish I kind of am missing a little bit that feel of like each level is a discrete sandbox, but I think maybe part of that is because I don't find the story particularly compelling. I think it picks up in Berlin and gets a little bit more interesting, but I think it's very standard spy shit, like people double crossing and like people, like there's not been a moment thus far where there's one moment that I will not spoil. That's a really good dialogue bit that had me like grinning and kind of like, I love Hitman, but it's just because of that individual dialogue. It has nothing to do with the story. And generally I think the story is fine, but I almost wish that they had kept it a little bit thinner so that you could have those discrete sandbox levels.
Yeah, it's already so thin that it feels just kind of like superfluous already. And so like even with like kind of the extra emphasis on this one.
This isn't a major criticism because I love these games. This is one of my favorite series. And I don't care about the story being good or bad, frankly. But I think the thing that I find a little frustrating with the story is they call it World of Assassination, but I don't feel like there's a connected world here at all. It doesn't feel like anything has ramifications anywhere to this story. It feels like it just feels very video gamey, and like there's no, they're trying to make it like, oh, you did this thing in Berlin and that has, and then you did this thing in Chongqing and that has serious ramifications for the entire world of assassination. When it's like, okay, but I've known 2 people in the ICA before this game.
Yeah.
So I don't even, the ICA to me is Burnwood in 47. I don't see it as an organization. I don't see it as like being this global ring of people, because you never hear about that shit. So I don't know. The story has been a little like whatever to me.
Definitely. I lost it. It's okay.
I've been enjoying the story. I think it's pulpy. I don't think it's like deep, but I think for what they're going for, systemically taking down this whole thing has been fun. Not funny, but like it's been an interesting take on what they did against the first 2 games.
It feels real great to take out some rich shitheads.
Of course, yeah.
But just the like that it's like so thin, and like because they cut to like these events that you kind of know what's happening, but you don't actually get to what, like you miss out on so much, and they're just like people showing up and they have like, you know, a 30-second conversation and then it cuts away and you're back to assassinating people.
I think it's pretty predictable too. A lot of the main, like there's some like quote sad stuff that happens, but I was just like, I mean, obviously this was going to happen. I was a little surprised it happened this soon, but it was obviously going to happen.
Well, they've only got 6 levels to get you through. So.
But what I'll say about their writing is there are stories within the levels that are really cool. So the
diegetic stories are really strong.
Yes, absolutely. Especially like in Chongqing, there's like a bunch of little narrative threads between characters that aren't even really like related to the hit. Like maybe if you were creative enough, you could find a way to use those stories to your advantage, but they're not even like mission stories. They're just like at one point I did a blend interaction, not really for any reason. I didn't really need to, but I did it. And this woman standing next to you on this bridge starts a conversation with you about like how her friend was supposed to meet her, but she still hasn't shown up, and she like doesn't know if her friend's trying to push her away because it's too much, and like 47's like, I'm sure she'll be here and stuff, and like trying to console this woman. And it's just like really, I was like, wow, this is actually like a really heartfelt, interesting look at like two strangers interacting. They're both have completely different things going on in their lives. I don't know. There's little things like that that are really touching, not touching necessarily all across the board, but that are really like funny or touching or interesting. So I think that like, it's clear that there's two writing teams at IO, and the one that Janine Hawkins is on is probably the one in the levels, and those are really fucking good. So
yeah, they are really good. Like in the second level, and I don't think this is any kind of spoiler, like in one of the first rooms you can really access, even before you start getting down the main path, you hear like the staff of the hotel, or not the hotel, the mansion, the manor, whatever, kind of talking amongst themselves and talking about like some personal stuff going on. And it sounds like these are people that have known each other for like 10 plus years, like having these conversations. It's like, yeah, that feels genuine. Like they're talking about, oh, I'm going to be a dad kind of stuff. And
that
it's like,
stuff. I just sat in that room for like 10 minutes and listened to them talk.
Yeah. And you can just sit there and you don't have to. There's no reason to do it. Like it does not reward you for doing so. It's just really good writing. Like that stuff is awesome.
Yeah, totally.
But that stuff has always been awesome too. So.
And that's kind of the thing, is that stuff has always been awesome, and I've always preferred that stuff to the larger plot. So to some degree, it bums me out a little bit that, like, I wonder if we got less of that in like the Berlin level, for example, because the Berlin level serves a very specific purpose within the larger story. Yeah. So it involves some in mission dialogue, and I'm wondering if like, would that level have been more interesting if those had just been targets like in Hitman 2, and if you had had more of that sort of diegetic storytelling in the level? I don't know, maybe you wouldn't, but and I happen to know like there's a mechanic in the 5th level that sounds disappointing to me. I mean, it sounds interesting from the perspective of this isn't something they've really done before in a Hitman game. You have to protect someone, basically. I won't spoil like anything more about it, but
it feels less like protect and more just be a little more careful.
Okay, that's good, because I think adding those wrinkles is good.
Don't throw an explosive duck at this person.
So I don't know. I don't think it has the same feel to. I guess what it is I won't know this for sure until I'm deep in doing mastery stuff. Like I played the Paris level for around 20 hours from Hitman 1 because
clown outfits and
that level, and there's just between the escalations and all the challenges, there's just like so many things to do in it over and over and over again. And every time you're learning about a new thing, every time you're learning about a new thing, like, oh shit, I didn't realize that I could climb this drain pipe to get in this window. That changes the way that I approach this part of the task. And I'm hoping that is still here in these Hitman 3 levels. I just don't really know yet because I haven't sunk my teeth into them in that way.
Yeah, like I just started replaying so I finished the game. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go back to Dubai. I'm gonna like check out the other stories and the challenges and stuff. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, there's like a whole other
that's my suspicion, is that all that stuff is still there. It's just kind of covered up by the story in your first playthrough. So I'm hoping that by going back you'll be able to sort of peel back those layers a little bit and get to the kind of like the gooey Hitman Center.
Chongqing felt like the most kind of ephemeral, like, you know, I don't really know what I'm gonna like. I'm just gonna walk around here, I'm gonna try and find a thing. I'm like, oh okay, I found like these guys in like cook costumes and they're having a conversation. Okay, I guess I'm gonna follow these guys for a while. And
that level is maybe, at first blush, that level maybe is my favorite Hitman level in the entire trilogy. I don't know. I have to play it a lot more. I haven't played Mumbai that much, and people like Mumbai a lot. And Sapienza is really cool. people talk about Sapienza like it's the best one, and I don't think that it's the best one.
I got a weird pick for my favorite so far. I haven't finished Hitman 3, but I really liked Hokkaido.
I hate Hokkaido, but it's
really
the thing about this conversation is that I think it's interesting that you like Hokkaido. I would never argue about this shit because I think that people's picks of their favorite Hitman level, I think they're all really, really good and really well designed. So I would never ever say like, you're crazy for liking Hokkaido. I just happen to hate Hokkaido because of the way it's so gated and is so like, you have to do so much work to move around the level freely. That's why I think it bothers me, because I don't like Colorado either for the same reason.
Yeah, I liked that one.
The Whittleton Creek is good.
Yep.
I like the ones where you can just cause, like, the chaos you cause seems the most out of place. So, like, really? You know, blowing things up in a suburb is just like, it's good fun.
I would think
like being a real estate agent.
Miami was also a really strong one.
Yes. Miami's great. I agree.
Of course, you like Miami, Pat.
Yes, because it's a Formula One race.
But I will say, like, getting back to the playing Harris on its own for 20 hours straight, that was also kind of the benefit of Hitman 1, it being episodic.
Yes.
Like, I still kind of miss that format for Hitman, because I think that's when it was at its best, when you were like, you were playing a level over and over again because that's what you had. And like, when the new one came out, you're anticipating it because it's like, oh yeah, I get to jump into this next one and then sink my teeth into that one for 20 hours kind of thing. Like, I think that's personally the best format they've had, because after this, I play the level once and then I move on to the next one and then to the next one and then go back to them later. Whereas I preferred playing it over and over again and then to the next one over and over again.
Yeah, I can see that. I think you could still do that. I kind of like being able to run through the story and get an overview of all the levels and then do what you're saying and play stuff over and over. But I understand why. I've heard that sentiment a few times, and I understand. I think it was cool when they did it episodically, that's for sure. And I would almost like for them, the thing that they've not done that I wish they would is release one of these games, and who knows if they will. I don't think they've said, and then do episodic releases for like a year afterwards. Like, give me like 6 more levels over the next 2 years or something. Like,
especially since
Hitman
this
3.
is the last one. It would be nice if they're just like, hey, here's some more shit, or like because with Hitman 1, they still did like, oh, here's our summer update. We're not doing a full thing, but like we're gonna do like an alternate version of Sapienza, and we're gonna we're gonna add a bunch of stuff to it and like change the setting.
Those are cool. Yeah, they did that with the Patient Zero campaign. I didn't actually finish it, but I started playing some of it. That thing's really cool. It totally changes the hotel level from Hitman 1. It's like a totally different level if you play Patient Zero, and that it's awesome. I totally would accept stuff like that if they just like tweaked things. One of my favorite Hitman games prior to this trilogy, I mean, Blood Money is objectively the best one, I think. Objectively, you can't say that, but Blood Money was the best one before this, just because it was the most fully formed. But I loved Hitman Contracts, because Contracts was like an anthology series of like, in the fiction at that point, spoilers for the old 25-year-old Hitman and its sequel, but canonically at the end of Hitman 2, no, it's not that old.
Maybe
20-ish. But canonically at the end of Hitman 2, 47 dies. At least I think I'm remembering that right. So the third game was called Hitman Contracts, and it was an anthology of games tied together by this like person telling 47's stories. And then at the end of Contracts, it was like, oh my God, the person who was telling the stories to was 47.
Hitman Codename 47 came out the 19th of November 2000.
There you go. Yeah.
Contracts 2004.
Yes. So anyway, I loved Hitman Contracts because it was totally like, now 47's in a weird nightclub with a meatpacking plant attached to it, and like it just was like they had total freedom to bounce from spot to spot with no need to narratively justify it. I think it would be really cool if when they come back to Hitman, they've said this is the last one in the trilogy. It's the last one for a while. When they come back to it, I would love to see a take that's more like that. And I think in my dream scenario, they should just do a season, like a bunch of DLC for this that takes that approach of like, hey, yeah, the story ended in Hitman 3. Here's a bunch of filler stuff that happened that doesn't really relate to the story of the games, using old levels and maybe like a couple new levels. But I don't know. The DLC levels they did for Hitman 2 are really cool. I heard people kind of
played them.
I heard people kind of poo-poo them when they came out. They're really good though.
Yeah, I would love to play them if only there was some way to import the knowledge that I own.
It's
Hitman
also
2
funny.
Gold Edition.
This is like a light spoiler for the end of Hitman 2, beginning of Hitman 3. Which you would know if you started Hitman 3. You would already know this, so don't worry if you started Hitman 3. But at the end of Hitman 2, the base game, they have the Constant in their custody, and the story stuff in the DLC, I was like, wow, this has pretty major story implications from the bank level and the like Maldives like resort level that they added, which are both really cool levels. And then at the beginning of Hitman 3, they're just like, they had the Constant, but he escaped. And I was like, well, it was a lot more complicated than that. But I guess that really is all that matters to the story.
Somehow Palpatine is back.
Yeah, it was funny because I just played those earlier this week and was like, I wonder how they're going to do this, because they're going to have to explain what happens here to people who didn't play the DLC, because it matters. But yeah, all it is it doesn't really. It's just that he escaped. That's the only part of it that matters.
You know, that's what I was saying about the story. Is like it's so barely there, and none of it matters. Like they don't need it. What I said privately, and I'm not like saying like it's terrible. It's fine. There's nothing. It's not bad. Yeah. It seems very much like they're gearing up to do a James Bond story with this stuff. I think that I could see them transplant a lot of these ideas onto James Bond and have it work really well. And I'm wondering to what extent the Bond game is just going to be a Hitman game. Not that I would be complaining about that. It would be fine if they made the Bond games Hitman, except instead of killing people, your objectives are like, go steal stuff from this vault or whatever, be a spy. That could be fucking awesome.
Yeah, I think IO's, in terms of the games they make just really interesting, really polished stuff that's like just amazing systems. And I think working with a property like that is going to do wonders for them. Like they are the right studio to do that. And I think they're going to, if they get creative freedom, like if they are able to do what they want with it, and like the license holders, whoever owns the license for James Bond, I don't even know, but
MGM.
It's MGM.
Is it MGM? Okay. Yeah. So as long as they're not like, not like scrutinizing every tiny thing and not letting them do their creative freedom-y stuff, then I'd be interested in seeing how buck wild they can get with it.
They're notoriously hands-on with James Bond, but also, as from what I have heard, they've had such a hard time getting Bond projects off the ground because of that they maybe are going to be able to have that kind of creative freedom. So I don't know. I would say James Bond Everything or Nothing, which is my favorite James Bond game. I think that game is fucking fantastic.
I don't know that one.
It's a third-person game. It's from like mid to late 2000s. It had like cover shooting and stuff, but it had a lot of stealth in it, and there was a lot of like driving sequences and stuff like that. I really like that game, and there's a couple levels of that game that feel like Hitman levels to me. So cool. I think if they look at that and then make a better, I think I would hope they would make a better game than that, because that game was like good for a licensed game. I don't want to oversell it, and I think if IO can kind of pull some creative freedom with the way that they use the license, like you're saying, it could be really good. I also think I've heard people say that they hope that IO's able to transfer their sort of weird sense of dark humor onto James Bond. I don't think that'll be a problem because I actually think James Bond already has, I think it meshes really well actually with their tone. I think a lot of the stuff in James Bond that is on the twisted side is a little subtle in a way that maybe people don't realize and kind of see it as more serious than it is. But even the Daniel Craig movies are like campy in certain ways. It's just so intentional that I think sometimes it doesn't come through. But yeah, I think they're the perfect studio, like you said, to do Bond, and I'm excited to see it. I don't know, Andre's.
I was I was gonna ask, but we've had the conversation a million times of where should they go, but you know.
What, for James Bond or for Hitman?
Well, I mean for Hitman, but yeah, I mean James Bond. They should just make an Austin Powers game. That's the answer there.
So
well, that kind of exists. That's Nulf.
Yeah. No One Lives Forever.
No One Lives Forever.
No One Lives Forever.
One of the best games of all time. Oh my god,
it's excellent.
Jesus Christ! Somebody make a new No One Lives Forever for fuck's sake.
IO do Nulf.
Well, what I really want is a really good remake of the first two No One Lives Forever games. I don't even know if I want someone to try to do a new one. The only people I would want to do a new one is Valve, and that's not going to happen. They're not going to make a No One Lives Forever. Anyway, No One Lives Forever is fucking fantastic. You should play those games, Andre.
I've played some of them, which I don't know if
there's three. There's No One Lives Forever 1 and 2, and then Contract Jack. Contract Jack sucks. IMO.
Contract Jack. What?
It's like another character, a side character you play. It's not good. The first two are great though.
What?
God, the level, the sniper level.
I did not play No One Lives Forever. No.
Oh, you got to play No One Lives Forever. Yep. Anyway,
Kate Archer.
Yeah,
Kate Archer and Agent 47 in the same game.
Yeah, that's what they should do, is make Kate Archer an elusive target in Hitman 3.
Who should we get in Hitman 3? Who should be because they're going to do a celebrity one. Who is the celebrity elusive target this go around? They had Gary Busey, then Sean Bean, Tigger. You're gonna eliminate the only Tigger from the world.
Yes,
he's the only one.
Yep.
Technically, that would be committing genocide, right?
Is it genocide if it's an animal? Is it you're just hunting it to extinction?
I think really the thing they should do is get AOC wants to be in video games, right? A person who I love, wants to be more engaged with gamers. AOC should volunteer as one of the elusive targets, but not actually playing as herself. That would be weird and creepy. Play a scary mad scientist or something like that.
Okay.
I can see
my actual answer is Chris Evans.
Conversation.
No, I know.
Chris Evans. Chris Evans would not be bad.
They should have Daniel Craig in
what are we
as
talking
Benoit
about?
Blanc.
He should play Benoit Blanc as in the Thornbridge level. Of course. Yeah. What am I saying?
That's the right answer.
There's some. I could see some good ones though. What about the actor who played Agent 47 in the movie?
Timothy Oliphant.
Yeah,
that would be funny.
That'd be really silly.
Especially because I don't know what IO thinks of their own canon, but Agent 47 is technically a clone. Mm-hmm. That's why his name is 47. Mm-hmm. And they did allude to that in Hitman 2, that Gray was the reason they knew each other was because Gray was also from the same cloning facility. Mm-hmm. So they could make Timothy Oliphant
Agent 48.
Yeah, he could be one of the clones. Because
Agent 69.
Spoilers for the original Hitman 1 from 2000. The end of that game is so fucking dumb. It's hilarious because you have to fight dozens of 47 clones.
Oh no!
Right.
That's the last level. Is they're pouring out of the cloning facility and you have to blow them all away.
God, I forgot about that.
So stupid.
I can confirm that is not how Hitman 3 ends.
Damn it. Okay, my last elusive target would probably be Gilbert Godfrey.
Oh, that'd be a good one. The Rock.
Again, they should do one that's like at a wrestling event or like a Comic-Con.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
that would be. It's a missed chance that they didn't do it.
You know that every time they make a Hitman game, they've got the sports arena one on a board somewhere, but they haven't pulled the trigger on it. And that's the thing. The thing about a sports arena is, when they choose to do that, they can dress that level up over and over again in different ways, because you can make it a convention thing.
Yep.
You can make it they should do like a football arena, an American football arena, because you can have a football game happening, and like their crowd tech is hitting a point where they could actually have the stadium have like tens of thousands of people in it.
Crowd,
So yeah, and actually, to answer the earlier question of where should they go, I was laying in bed last night thinking about Hitman, which is something that occurs for me more frequently than you would think, not even on the release weeks of Hitman games. My dream, as cool as I said anthology because it's more realistic, my real dream is they go, okay, 47, this time you need to kill a bunch of people, whatever, 12 people, and they're all in, take your pick, New York City, Tokyo, San Francisco, like London, wherever, Paris. And this time you have to figure out how to kill them all, and it's all one big like city. So it's more like an open world. Not an open world game with like Far Cry objectives, not a Ubisoft open world, but more like there's dozens of mission stories and a dozen targets spread out across the city, and they become available to target at different times. And you're basically...
You mean Death Loop.
Basically, yeah. Like one large city that is the size of like a Watch Dogs or something.
Yeah. But
you're killing targets over like a 10-hour campaign, like not even a campaign, like the kind of thing where part of the reason I'd like to see that is because you would be able to have like, it would take me 10 hours to kill all these targets on this one big, huge map. But then you would get speedrunners who get it down to like, oh, I figured out how to do it in 5 minutes, and here's how. I would love to see that, and I think it would be really cool, and a twist to the formula if it was like, oh yeah, you can drive around and go to these different locations. And I think that the thing that they could make it more to scale than a lot of open world games by saying it's a chunk of a city rather than here's an entire city, and just pick the most interesting geographical locations.
I was going to treat it more like The Division or something. But like maybe half of that size or something. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. One thing I will say is that I never really felt bummed out by this in the previous games, but it was on chunking. Like at the beginning, I did like the Hitman Vision or whatever, where you pull the right bumper and it brings up like your opponent in. You can see people through walls and like
instinct mode or whatever.
Yeah, instinct vision or instinct mode, whatever it is. And I was like, oh, I can just see where both my targets are, like across the map, outlined in red, like in their underground secret labs, and or wherever they are. And like it was a little like, I wish I had to work for it more a little bit. I still have to like figure out how to get down there and like do things stealthily and not get my shit wrecked. But it would have been nice to have a little bit more of a aha, there you are moment, instead of just, okay, you're there. Okay, well, now I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, it's always been that way though.
Yeah, and it never came across to me like that until like this game. But maybe that's just because I've played 2 other games of it, played a lot of them.
I think part of that is that in the only other level that is quite to that scale to my memory is the Mumbai level. And if I recall, in the Mumbai level, you don't know who the targets are.
There is one who you don't know.
Yeah, that's right.
And they're like hidden out in a bunker.
And the other one is in a very specific place. So it didn't feel as weird, I don't think, because when you hit control on PC, it's control. When you hit the Hitman vision, it's like, oh, there's that one target in the area that I know they're in. And so in the other one, you just couldn't see. So you didn't have the same like, oh, this is where they are.
Yeah.
Did you do, I won't spoil them, did you do the mission stories in the chunking level?
I did 2 of them. I did like the homeless one, and I did the tour one.
Okay, cool. Those are the ones that I did too. I think that the way, be very careful. I think that the way the tour one ends is extremely interesting, and it's the only mission story in Hitman that I've gone, I want to go back and play that mission story again and see how I could do things differently. And it was like, that's when I was like, oh, the point of this level is cause and effect. It's to show you that like you make choices when you are deciding to knock out a security guard or whatever to take their uniform. You're not even realizing that you're making a choice that's actually going to affect the mechanics of the level, because now that guard's not patrolling and it opens up this area or something. And you don't really think about that in the process of playing, but that mission story confronts you directly with like, here's a choice to make, and it's interesting.
Well,
the way that the other one that you mentioned, the one
that one was
other one's fucking wild. It's really cool.
Yeah, cyberpunk, eat your heart out.
Yes. Yes. Turns out Hitman 3 was the cyberpunk we needed all along.
Yeah. The art on the art on that level for it's like level design is real nice.
It's spectacular.
And neon lights. There's no ray tracing in the game. There's like screen space reflections or whatever, but they're going to add RTX and it's just going to look so good.
Does it even need, I mean, you look at the reflections
really
in the
good.
puddles. Yeah. I was looking at the puddles
RTX
and
is
chunking.
better at that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's just going to look better.
It was just stunning. Like the way the lights reflect off the wet pavement wet pavement is the thing, right? And I was just like, wow, it's
or
so...
even in the manor, like when stuff is like reflecting off of off of the shined up floors and stuff like that. It's great.
Yeah, it's I don't think there's, the animations can be kind of jank in Hitman games sometimes. Sure. So I don't want to say it's like all around. It's not like the best looking game I've ever seen or anything. No. But there's some really impressive work with like reflections and reflective surfaces.
The first, like when you go to Dubai the first time, and like the spot it puts you in did make me go like, holy shit, because I was just like, this looks real nice, like real pretty, like not even like it's the most beautiful, it's the best graphics. It was just like a real nice like vista and presentation. I
really hope hidden somewhere in that level is an electric car that you can drive out a window. They really, really, really should have.
That would be a really good like murder or
it would be
escalation or elusive target thing.
That would be a reference to a Fast and Furious film for people who have not seen them. But they should do like a heist in one of the because they always have like, destroy the thing, but like if it was just like get in, get out, don't be seen, don't be heard or whatever. And don't kill anyone. You should play the Hitman 2 DLC.
I should, and I will, whenever Tim Sweeney deems it appropriate.
It's there's still in the bank level, you still have to kill somebody, but it is also a heist. And you get exactly the heisty feel.
Yeah. Well, that's Hitman
talk.
That's Hitman 3.
Now that we've talked for Hitman 3 for no less than an hour.
Hey, it's good. We'll be playing more of it as I want to try and play more of the I always say I want to play more of the elusive targets and stuff, but maybe this year I'll actually stick with it. Maybe not. I don't know.
I would assume that since this is the last one, they're going to start rotating through old ones.
They did eventually do that
because they did that before.
Yeah.
If I were them, I would say, hey, this is the Hitman 3 elusive target, and then in the weekends between them, I would rotate through the old ones to encourage people to go buy the passes. But I think, there's exhaustive Hitman talk, but I don't know that we're going to need to, unless we want to have a spoilery review conversation at some point. Doesn't Yeah, I was gonna say, like, what do we even spoil? But the levels go deep. It's stuff about the levels.
The story is nothing.
No.
And also, there's not that much coming out in the next few months. So
I don't know. One of us played a thing that is coming out in the next few months, and one of us is playing a thing that's a 250-hour hole. So.
Yeah, Andre, what should we talk about?
Let's hear about your hole, Pat.
Let's dive into the hole, baby.
Let me tell you about my holes. So
about my holes.
I hinted at, or didn't really hint. I mentioned that I was playing the Yeast games last week. At that point, I had gotten through the first game and was in the second game. I have since completed Yeast 1 and 2, and I've completed 1.5 of the campaigns from Yeast Origin. Yeast Origin, it's not really like Birth by Sleep, but it does like a thing where there's 3 different stories in it. And the first 2 are like the same. They're almost like alternate stories because they're the same path through the game. They just have different stories to them based on which character you're playing. But they can't exist. The stories couldn't happen. They couldn't both happen. It'd be impossible for both of them to happen because of the events that occur within them. So it's like 2 different stories. And then the third one is like the canonical one, but you have to beat the first 2 to unlock the third one.
Oh, so it's like you're playing a visual novel and then you're getting the various ends until you get the true end.
Correct. But with like fun gameplay. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. The thing that's cool is that the characters are different enough that it doesn't feel like too repetitive. Instead, it's like, oh, this boss fight's totally different now because this character plays super differently, which is kind of cool. And it's a short enough game that it's not like, oh fuck, I have to play a 25-hour game over again. And the stories are interesting, but forget ahead of myself. The first 2 Yeast games are really cool. I think if you have any interest in like old video games, you should play them. The Yeast 1 and 2 that are on Steam is the way that I played it. It's beautiful graphical updates that gives it like a 16-bit, but like better visual fidelity. And they're a really interesting contrast to the Cold Steel games or the Trails games, because the Trails games are super about politics and individual story threads from like 20 different characters weaving around each other. And it's really cool. But Yeast is much more about like mythology, and it's more of a game about like a hero going to kill the big demon monster. And it does it in a way though that's feels really touched by like classic fantasy, and they're really well done. And gameplay wise, the first 2 Yeast games are interesting because they use a bump combat system, which is something that was very common in roguelikes, or in Rogue and NetHack and those games, where to attack enemies you literally just run into them. In Yeast though, it's super fast paced, and you're trying to run into them at an angle so that they can't attack you back, and it makes for really fun, like weird combat scenarios where you're like sprinting. You move so fast, so you're like sprinting at these enemies and slamming into them, and it's just leaving like a trail of monster entrails in your wake, because there will be rooms where there's like 10 enemies and you just like run into them twice. Like you run into them and kind of like bounce against them until they die. And if you get good at it, you can just figure right through these rooms and Swiss cheese whole rooms of guys. It's very entertaining. And then the origin kind of takes on the way that the game works until the last two, which is more like a sort of like Zelda mixed with Diablo, where you're in an isometric view and you're hitting a button to attack, but it's like real fast. So it's like Diablo, where you're like killing rooms of guys very quickly, and you have abilities that you use that kind of are useful in different tactical situations. So in the end, those games clearly are like Diablo, but JRPGs. There isn't loot in the same way as there is in Diablo. You get items over the course of the game that make you stronger, but it's not like enemies are dropping stuff really. They drop like buffs, temporary potions that give you increased attack speed and stuff. And it's really satisfying to like learn the systems and get good at them and level up your characters. You don't have to do that much grinding. When you do, it's fun because you just run through the same room over and over again and hoover up enemies and just watch the experience bar fill up, which is more fun to me than I've seen in games like Destiny and stuff. And it has a cool story. I don't know. I highly recommend giving them a look if you have any affinity for action RPGs. I'm excited to like move through the series.
Where are you playing them? Because I think they're available on Switch, aren't they?
No. Well, Origin is available on Switch.
Okay. Gotcha.
Let's pull up the chart, shall we?
Oh God.
I'll make this fast because but it is funny.
Like, if you have the ability to play a game on anything other than a Switch, I don't know why you would want to play on the Switch right now, because it's not like you have to go. You're going anywhere. It's like, oh, I can take this on the go with me.
People love their Switches, so I get it.
What are their minds?
So yeah,
they're so bad.
So I agree. The order that you play the Yeast games in is you play 1 and 2, which is available on the PC, PSP, Vita, PlayStation TV, and mobile. But the mobile version, it looks like it sucks, and Sam confirmed to me that it sucks. From there, you should play Yeast Origin, which is available on PC, PS4, Vita, Xbox One, and Switch. You, according to Digital MLS, which is what I've been using to kind of guide myself through the games, the best versions of Yeast Origins are the console versions, because the PC versions doesn't have the interface is better on the console versions, because .emu did the console ports. Right. And has a cleaner interface. After that, you play Yeast 4, Memories of Salsida, which is a remake of the original Yeast 4. And that one is, though you can play it on PC, PS4, Vita, or PS TV, but the PS4 remaster has higher res visuals and a higher quality score. So you should play it there. Then you play Yeast 3, The Oath in Felghana, which is on PC, PSP, Vita, and PlayStation TV. PC version has the best visuals. Then you play Yeast 6, The Ark of Napishtim, which is only on PC. And then you play Yeast 7, then 8, then 9. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you just played Kingdom Hearts 2 years ago, last year, 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
Remember, 2 years.
2019.
Like, this is no different than the Birth by Sleep and 358 over 2.
No, it's really not.
Like the order that you put stuff
The thing
in.
about Kingdom Hearts is that they collected them in 2 packages.
Yes.
Where you can just play the one that says 1 on the tin and then play the one that says 2 on the tin, and you're good. Mm-hmm. And just play everything in each of those collections, whereas this series is pretty fragmented across.
You play the 1.5 and 2.5 plus 0.8.
Yeah. I mean, it's still ridiculous, right? But like you play the games in the ascending order of the numbers, basically.
I can't. It's been a while since I looked at that thing, because I thought maybe it was in a weird order, but maybe it's not.
It's not. If you put in 1.5 remix, then it's like, oh, play Kingdom Hearts 1 and then play whatever Birth by Sleep,
Chain of Memories, and then watch the movie that they did of 358. I want to say I watched that for like 20 minutes before
It's
realizing it was
fucking awful.
only cutscenes.
Oh my
and
God.
not any gameplay.
I loved my time with Kingdom Hearts. I am a Kingdom Hearts super fan now. Sitting and watching the cutscenes for 358/2, which are very important to the overall plot, it fucking melts your brain because you're watching cutscenes and text crawls of a DS game.
Yep.
God. Anyway.
Completely devoid of any like
Yes.
like gameplay or
Yeah.
like gameplay story stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, what's interesting, when we can move on about the story of the Ys games, is with the way they were developed, like 1 and 2 were pretty widely beloved when they came out. And then in like the late 80s, and then the third game in the series was kind of like they were chasing Zelda 2. It was like a side scroller originally. And not very good from what I understand. The fourth one was better, but not super well received. And then the fifth one, people don't really like, and it hasn't even been translated. And this website is like, just don't even worry about it. But then the sixth game, they actually put a lot of like effort into the story, and it's a great game from what I understand. And after that, they went back and said, like, we need to clean up the story in these other two games. And they made Origin and remakes of 3 and 4. And after 6, once they started doing those remakes, they made significant changes to the stories of 3 and 4 in addition to the gameplay to kind of make them all more cohesive. Like, and now
retconning or just filling out?
Total retconning. Like they're not even, they call them, they're almost like erasing that the games, the first iterations of those games ever even happened. Gotcha. And now retroactively 3 and 4 are cool, and the whole story is supposedly really, really good, but it's only really, really good because after the 6th game, they went back and kind of totally reworked the stories of 3 and 4. So I don't know. I'm very interested to see how all that plays out. Apparently the 6th game, some people say you should play it as soon as you finish Origin because it has like bombshell story shit that changes the entire context of the story. But the guide that I was reading was like, or you could play 4 and 3 first and then have your mind blown when you play 6. So that's the route that I'm going.
It's kind of like, do you watch Star Wars from release order, or do you watch it like like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? What do you do? And then there's machete order and all that stuff. And
Sam reminded me that the original versions of 3 and 4 were licensed out. Falcom didn't even make them themselves. They licensed the name out, and because they were kind of in tumultuous periods with like there's a really good documentary that Sam sent me. You can look it up, about Falcom's history. Fascinating stuff. I highly recommend it. And they go over those that period of their history. In the 90s, they had a lot of like turnover and not a lot of cohesion among their game units. They still had the same like top level people, that some of whom are still there today. But yeah, they're a really interesting company. I rolled my eyes at Sam sometimes. I'm kind of kidding because I've been playing the Trails game slowly too, but I think maybe they're the company that I find the most interesting in the kind of history of JRPG stuff at this point, and I'm really excited to kind of work through Trails and Ys and then some of their non-series games as well, because they're pretty cool.
Well, I'm happy for you. Or I'm sorry that happened. I don't know. I'm not reading all that.
I think if you, like me, are someone who really wants to like JRPGs, but you tend to find them boring, I'm just being honest, not saying that they are boring, but I often get 10 hours into a JRPG and go like, I don't want to do this for another 60 hours. I think you should give Falcom's games a look because they're very different narratively and gameplay wise than a lot of JRPGs I've experienced and encountered. So
All right. Well, that's Pat's hole. Now, Alex, how about you tell us about your hole?
That sounds like it's not
I
very
have to?
deep from what you said before. This doesn't sound like it's a hole that
My
cuts
hole is
deep.
my hole's very shallow.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
should
no,
probably
so
see a doctor about that.
probably you would think. You would think.
Sounds like Hank Hill over here with his narrow urethra. It's not how he says urethra.
Anyways, I played the demo to a video game, which I normally wouldn't talk about, but it's a pretty substantial demo, and that is the one for Monster Hunter Rise. And it gives you 2 monsters that you can fuck with, and it gives you 30
Either of them
attempts with them.
dragons.
Kind of. I mean, it's not a dragon.
Because you can do wyvern riding on one of them, right?
Yeah, one of them is like a wyvern.
Which I think they should have. I mean, let's be honest. Wyvern riding. They've been listening to the
Dragon
podcast.
fucking.
Just call it dragon fucking. I get that it's on Switch, but
Family friendly.
Yeah. So like it's kind of dragon-esque, but it's not like big old motherfucking
look,
dragon.
if we can have tall vampire lady with the boobs, then we can finally just get the dragon fucking out there and over
Please,
with.
Capcom. Please.
Somebody other than Larian Studios, please. Just
I'm begging you.
yeah.
Tall vampire lady with the boobs. It's funny that
We'll
I knew
get to that
exactly what you
later.
meant. Yeah, we will. But yeah, so like you could potentially play this demo for like 20 or 30 hours if you really wanted to. But
And some people
know if
have, I'm sure.
I don't know if it's worth it because you're not maintaining any of those materials. Like you're not saving any of them and you're not carrying them to the main game. So you're just kind of just doing the hunts over and over again for no particular reason.
Yeah, some people want to practice the weapons and whatnot, but yeah.
It's true. It is a good way to just kind of get into each weapon and see how they feel, see how the mouthfeel is on those weapons. But
Stick that hammer
so-
all up in that mouth.
But for me, historically, I've tried a lot of Monster Hunter games and they've just never clicked for me. And I would say I tried this game and it didn't really click for me. However, I did go back to it and play it with a friend who is much more enthusiastic about Monster Hunter than I am and has a much more broad depth of knowledge than I do. And that made it a lot better. So I would say that experience of doing it with someone and just having them like talk about some of the deeper mechanics and some of the other stuff that you're not noticing going on was kind of cool, and it made it better. And also they're lighthearted. So we were just talking bullshit the whole time, and that made it so much better. So I think I could totally see this being a good game, or Monster Hunter in general, being a good thing to get into if you have a crew like that. But I think playing it solo sucks. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to play the full game. But in terms of this, like I said, the demo's pretty thorough. Like you could spend many, many hours. It seems like all of the systems basically are in there. You can hang out with your Palico or the dog whose name I'm forgetting now. It's like a Palamute or something, because I think it's like a Malamute. That's a pal.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I think Palamute is
Yeah.
right.
I think. And you can ride it. So like, yeah, you can do all this stuff. You can collect all the resources you normally would. You can do all the tracking. You can do all that junk. And like you can murder these monsters and you can get their stuff. But again, it's kind of all for naught. Did the previous games have the grapple hook, or is that new to this?
So they had a version of it in World,
Right.
and it sounds like the Rise Kujikawa version is like more robust and has a lot more uses.
Yeah, it's actually been pretty cool because like people are just whipping around all over this place. And then I think I never really got deep into it, but it seemed like you could use the wires from that as a part of a trap. Like if you got people to cross them over a monster enough that you
Sure.
could kind of trap it and get a bunch of hits down with it, which I thought it's pretty cool. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think I'm the best person to talk about the Monster Hunter mechanics because Monster Hunter for me is weird because it's not it's a complicated game in terms of the fact that there's many systems at play, but playing it isn't that complicated in terms of like, if you're learning a weapon, you can spend like 5 or 6 hours and pretty much have that weapon down, and then it's just a matter of comboing and then like doing it alongside the other junk.
And like each like monster is going to have like a different way to like tackle it with that weapon, but you know, you can learn the mechanics of a weapon.
Yeah, so like I would say like it's not the most complicated game in the world, despite there being a pretty heavy learning curve, but the thing that matters most is the fact that it's basically boss rush the game, right? Like it's the whole point of the game is that you are facing off on these big ass bosses, and the fact that there's only 2 of them here is like, okay, yeah, you get a good feel for those 2. You learn their animations, you learn their attack patterns, blah 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 blah. It's cool, but like, yeah, I don't know. But it's tough to say if, because I think what's there is good, and I think fans of the series will probably be into it. But I don't know if it's enough for me to drop a full price on it yet.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. I'm gonna wait for the PC version.
Yep.
If I play it at all.
Sure. I was originally in on playing this game just because there's sort of thin releases for the next few months. But now that I have like 3 decades worth of Falcom games that I would like to play,
You've got plenty of backlog.
I've got plenty, so I'm gonna wait. I think until there's a PC version for sure. It was as part of the big leak. It leaked that there was a PC version coming for this game. So I would like to play it though.
It looks really nice for a Switch game, I'll say.
Yes, from what I've seen, it's very impressive.
Yeah, it looks great,
and it runs well from what I've seen.
Yeah,
too.
the frame rate has been super solid. Like I would say, I didn't have any dips, so that was really cool.
I think there's something appealing to me. I am someone who I tried to play, I think, and then one other Monster Hunter game, and I liked them but didn't get deep on them. And then I played World. I played most of the world-based game. I still haven't gone back to Iceborne. There's something about, I think World is obviously a huge improvement in just about every way over the sort of previous style of Monster Hunter games.
Sure.
But there's something about the complexity of World's environments and like the density of like stuff happening in the environments that I found overwhelming, and I kind of like the simplicity of the older Monster Hunter levels. So Rise has a certain appeal to me because I think...
Sorry, what?
I'm not participating in this sick joke that has fooled people into thinking that the game was actually called Rise. But I think it has some appeal to me because, like, getting back to that, like incorporating some of the newer mechanics from World into a game that's a little simpler visually is actually kind of appealing to me, as a way to kind of try to get back into it, and then maybe jump over to World and play through the rest of World.
Sure. Yeah, because like I played 3 Ultimate, I think. That was the one that was on Wii and stuff, I think.
Yeah, I think I played that one.
It's been a long time. But yeah, I played 3 Ultimate, and then I jumped into World, and I probably put like 7 or 8 hours into World and then just kind of fell off. So like, I don't know, it's a series where it seems like you either are super hot on it or you just kind of fall off.
Yeah, I can see that. The appeal of... anymore, I find myself, flies in the face of playing all these Falcom games, so I guess that's an exception to this. Actually, there's 3 modes for me. Either I want relatively short narrative heavy games that are not super long, things like, I don't know, like a Wide Ocean Big Jacket, but that they don't have to be borderline visual novels necessarily. It can be a game with more mechanics than that.
Tacoma.
Yeah, and even something like I really want to get back and play Hellblade this year, the first Hellblade. Oh, sure. That's a game that's like 6 hours long, right? And
around there,
6 to 10. Yeah, I mean, maybe a little more than that. But a relatively short 2 or 3 sittings game that is might be a action game, might have mechanics, but is narrative focused. Or I want Hitman, Call of Duty style stuff where you can replay the same content over and over and over again and find new ways to approach it and enjoy it, whether that's a multiplayer game or a game like Hitman. And Monster Hunter definitely falls into that category.
Sure.
Or I want to do stuff like this Falcom Dive where I'm picking up a series and playing through the whole series and devoting a bunch of time to it. But I guess what I'm saying is I'm less enthused this year by, like, I want to play Valhalla, but I'm not in a headspace right now where I really want like open world games that take 80 hours to play, that are a mix of, that maybe have 30 hours of narrative and then 40 to 50 hours of running around and fighting stuff. That's sort of not where my brain is at right now. I'm finding myself much more in the mode of like, give me a Monster Hunter where I can do the same content, but it's interesting to play it over and over again.
I think the thing that is gonna kill Rise for me is that I talked about this on another podcast. Total monsters, at least so far announced, is 41. When you compare that to Iceborne, that has 94, and that was like, it was still like 60 in World, and then 129 in Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate. Like, it's just, I like having that massive variety, and like a lot of that is like color variations, but there are still a lot of like individual unique monster types. And I like, without that, it's hard for me to want to like put the time in without like if I'm just gonna be fighting the same like 6 monsters and then some variations on like those, then it's like
I really wish they would put out Generations Ultimate on PC.
It's the old version, so they're like,
I know.
But they put those out on like Wii U when they were doing them. So
yeah,
but was Generations a 3DS game that they ported to the Switch? I think it was Generation, like the Ultimate. Yeah, so Generations.
It's not even. They didn't even
Double Cross.
They didn't even port it to Switch. They did. Okay, cool.
So it was Generations or Double Cross in Japan, and then they put it out and they did Ultimate was the Switch version.
I guess I'd be willing to play it on Switch if it runs well and looks good. It would just be nice to have something that is like the culmination of that entire of the old style of game.
Yeah, and that would be Ultimate.
Yeah.
That would be Generations Ultimate. Yeah.
Yeah. Or if you want to try this for free, totally worth downloading the demo just to see what it's like.
Yeah, I have the demo installed. I haven't gotten around to playing it. I know I'd like it. The demo, spending time with the demo would more be like, oh yeah, this is fun. Because I like the combat in Monster Hunter a lot. Honestly, part of my issue... I'm not
going to gain anything by playing the demo.
Part of my issue with World 2, which I talked about years ago, was I have to get in a really specific headspace for it, because watching those monsters get hurt and limp away was actually really upsetting to me. There's something about the lower fidelity of the older style monster art that made that feel less bad. But when you would hit some of those monsters and they would like get injured and get upset and run away, I was like, wow, I feel like a piece of shit. And it made it difficult for me to get through that game. Some of the monsters, like the weird skin cat thing, it's like, no, this thing should die. I can totally see that. If you're into Monster Hunter and board games, you can check out the Kickstarter for Primal: The Awakening, which I might end up spending way too much fucking money on.
That sounds like a stick and rock, like early access game.
I know the name isn't good, but the game looks really good. I watched some playthroughs of it, and it's a Monster Hunter board game and looks fucking fantastic. And it has a co-op, like it's co-op, and it has a campaign mode where you kill the monsters, and if you kill them in certain ways, you get different crafting materials, and you can upgrade your gear in between hunting sessions. So if you have are into making bad financial decisions and like Monster Hunter and board games, it's there for you.
Hey, what else are you gonna do with stimulus money?
I could save it or pay off a credit
You
card.
could buy
Those would be the
GameStop-
responsible things to do with it.
Buy GameStop stock.
Yeah, you could buy some Bitcoin.
Joe Biden send every American 2,000 Bitcoin.
Well,
Look to the future.
yeah, totally. And also tank Bitcoin in the process.
Oh, it'll do that itself. Don't worry.
It's on its way.
Well, that was all you needed to know about Alex's hole.
Yep.
Now we're going to look to the future and talk about the news.
Is that the future?
It's the future of last week.
Last week's future.
Today.
Exactly. That's our promise. So the most recent news story, which we'll just get into right now, is Microsoft doing as of late, I would say, uncharacteristic move, where they just did something that everyone hated so much that they immediately had to reverse course.
Is it uncharacteristic?
As of late,
Remember the
I would
always.
say.
I was gonna say, remember the always online and the used games thing.
But like I'd say in the last, like, they have like,
Yeah, in the last
maybe
few
they
years,
show
yeah,
a
sure.
game
They're doing like a
that
classic
doesn't look
Microsoft.
great. They're
Yeah.
doing
It's
doing
Microsoft
a
throwback.
Don Matrick.
Yeah.
It's a Don Matrick.
It's Microsoft with real sugar.
Freaky Friday. It's Freaky Friday with Phil Spencer and Don Matrick. Well, here, let's say what happened, and then we can get into our thoughts on it. So Friday, Microsoft announced that the price of Xbox Live Gold would essentially be doubling from $60 a year up to $120 per year. Or 6 months for $60. So not even like a discount for buying like a full year.
And this was after they got rid of the year-long subscription.
Yes.
So everyone was
this was
assuming
only 6 month cards.
maybe
that was the thing. Yeah. Only 6 month
people
increments.
People were assuming that when you when they got rid of the 12-month cards, that they were just going to do away with Xbox Live Gold in general. So when this news hit and it's like the prices have literally doubled, everyone's like, "What?"
Yeah, and at that time, you required Xbox Live to play any game, like free to play, so Fortnite,
free to play.
Apex Legends, whatever, required Xbox Live
Roblox?
Gold. Whereas, is that on Xbox? I don't know.
I don't know.
They have Goku in that game. I don't know. But compare that to like PlayStation or Nintendo, where you can play those games without an online subscription, or PC, where the same thing. PC, you don't need an online subscription to play those games. It looked real weird, and everyone was like, "Excuse me." Yeah. And Microsoft, late in the evening on Friday, changed course and said, "You're right. We heard you. I'm trying to get it removed."
It was within
trending.
It was within like 12 hours.
I'm not owned. I'm not owned.
Yeah, like it was a very fast turnaround, and it had people kind of like questioning, was this a publicity stunt? Which
they had sent out like cards to retailers with like the 6 months for $60. Like,
I don't know what.
cards.
Yeah, I don't know
like,
what happened here. This was like, it feels to me like they did it on purpose. I wonder if what they were.
But so you could do this like on purpose, but with like, say, hey, starting in March, it's going to go up, and not send out actual cards.
I think one thing that I could see having happened is the plan was hike up the price on Xbox Live Gold and then eliminate Xbox Live Gold after they run through those cards and transfer everyone's time over to Xbox Live or Game Pass Ultimate or whatever.
Pass,
Yeah.
But the argument being internally, we can't just give everyone who currently has Xbox Live Game Pass for the rest of their time because the money doesn't work out. We need to get them to buy 6 months of time at $60 for that to like work financially. And then miscalculating on the fact that people were going to see through it and be like, what the fuck? That's the only thing I can see having occurred where they earnestly thought that people were going to spend $60 on 6 months of Xbox Live Gold.
In 2021.
Yeah.
It like we're at the point where Xbox Live Gold should not like, and PlayStation Plus should not be required for like multiplayer. Because like with PC, you don't need like any extra subscription service. Now we're doing so much cross-play stuff that like, yes, they need infrastructure. Like, you know, Sony especially needs like infrastructure stuff in place to like help build their stuff, but make a compelling service that isn't just, this is the only way you can play games online, like your Call of Duty or whatever.
The compelling service is Game Pass, but I get that it's...
But that's if you don't want to, if you know, if all you're playing is Fortnite and Roblox and Apex or whatever, then you know you don't necessarily want Game Pass.
Yeah,
like
I think it's a sticky situation for them to figure out how to get through. Also, this is just very funny.
It's a sticky situation for them of their own making.
Well, yeah. But I mean, it's all about how do you, we're hitting an interesting time where it's like, how do you sunset services that have existed for a really long time and merge them or change them over to new services that are better? And it's a tough question. I don't really know what the answer is for that. People should have bought Xbox All Access, where you got a bunch of Game Pass and Xbox Live time, and then when it became Xbox Live Ultimate or Game Pass Ultimate, they just merged it together all that time. I don't know. Before the next story, this is just a tangent that's very funny and it'll only take a second. Roblox made me think of it. I'm not going to get into it, but I've been playing historical war games as well with people. And a lot of the people that I've been playing with came to the war game we're currently playing from a Roblox mod about Napoleonic warfare called Blood and Iron.
Okay.
I saw video footage of this, and it's Roblox characters with muskets fighting in a field.
Going, oof.
Yes.
Is Roman Reigns there?
No, Napoleon was there.
Goku there?
He was on
Goku,
a horse. Yeah. He was riding around on a horse.
You should really play more Psychonauts.
Sure.
I promise that's relevant.
Yeah, well, I mean, the character's name is Napoleon, right?
It's more so than that, but yeah. There's a whole Napoleon thing.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Now I'm just looking at guest characters in Roblox.
Tim Schafer did say that he has finished the final piece of writing for Psychonauts 2. So
wow, cool.
It'll presumably be out this year. I hope that. I'm looking forward to that. But our next news story, speaking of strange decisions that no one can understand and disappointed many people, once again, Activision crushing dreams and announcing that Vicarious Visions is now being merged with Blizzard and will be focused entirely on Blizzard projects. Vicarious Visions being the team that brought us Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, the remaster last year, which everyone loved. It was
it's really good,
well regarded, highly praised, and this is basically, does Vicarious Visions even exist like as a brand name anymore?
No,
like
they said they're all Blizzard employees now.
Blizzard now, Activision Blizzard. Okay,
that sucks. Like, I really hope it just, like, that's a studio that could do really cool things on their own if they wanted. Like, if Activision would give them the resources. But now it feels like they're going to get the Raven treatment, where you know, they're just going to be making Overwatch maps or whatever. Because like Raven just makes Call of Duty maps, so
Yeah.
which sucks because Raven was amazing.
Yeah, I think I try to be careful talking about this because I'm certainly not taking a pro Activision stance here, because Activision is a corporation and corporations only exist to make money for their shareholders. There are no good corporations. But like it's so hard to know what the conversations about this were like internally. It's unlikely that Vicarious Visions is a monolith. There's like 200 people at that studio, so it's unlikely that there was a consensus among them. But I saw some people comparing it to the Campo Santo acquisition, where it's like, oh, Campo Santo made cool shit, and then they just got folded into Valve, and now they're just in Valve's black box. But if you listen to Idle Thumbs, what you would understand is that making Half-Life is like a thing that at least the dudes on Idle Thumbs would. I mean, that's like career defining for them. Like the Campo Santo acquisition is sad that we didn't get Valley of the Gods or whatever, but it sounds like something that was like a huge personal thing for those people to work at Valve and work on Valve games because they love them.
The Valve thing is just weird because they put out so little, like in terms of games.
It's not a
we got
direct
Half-Life
comparison.
Alyx.
It's just what I think my point more largely is broadly is that the like gaming press and like fans of games tend to hear about stuff like this and go like, this fucking sucks because I didn't want it, because I wanted them to do more Tony Hawk and I like the Crash remakes. So it's shitty that this happened because now I don't get the things that I want, when it's like, we just don't know what. If 120 people out of that 200 person studio really fucking wanted to work at Blizzard before they even worked at Vicarious Visions, maybe it's a great move for them. It's hard to, and then I also don't know that the cynicism, not that I'm saying you're doing this, Alex, but I've seen a lot of like, now they're just going to make fucking Overwatch skins. We don't know that. We don't know what the positions of those people are going to be. So I think it's like there's every possibility that it's very shitty, but I think we just don't know internally what those moves are like.
I think the cynicism comes from Activision's track record, which is not very good.
And Blizzard's lately, or I guess they're the same company, but like the Blizzard branch.
Right, but that's like specifically why Raven comes up, is because that was a really promising studio. Like you look at all the games they made, like all the way back to like Jedi Academy and stuff like that. Like they were making really cool stuff. But now they're just relegated to like literally just Call of Duty maps. Like Singularity was such a cool game, and like they should be making more stuff like that. But now all of that talent all the talent walked out the door. Like if you read accounts of what happened to Raven, like most of the people who worked on those games, they just left. So like it's not like we can't speak for the people who are or were at Vicarious Visions because we don't know, but like Valve has a more sterling track record, almost, I would say, in terms of developers.
Absolutely.
Whereas Activision kind of has the reputation of being extremely shitty. So like I think that's where the cynicism comes from. But if those people are into it and they want to work on, like maybe they'll end up doing some Diablo stuff, awesome. But it's tough to say.
To me, it's like, from the cynical, shitty perspective, which is probably accurate, it's kind of like, well, you know, like if my company got acquired by Amazon, I'd have to write about USB hubs. So it happens so much across industries that it's another example of like, we should stop, say, this is really fucking shitty that this happens. And this is a thing happening across industries. And we really like join the fight against capitalism, baby. It's more my message to people who are pissed off about this, who are not already thinking about these kinds of things in larger terms, because this is happening every day to companies all over the place, and it sucks that it happens. And then at the same time, it's like, it's hard to know what the people at Vicarious, I mean, a few friends have come to me and said like, well, I know that they were passionate about Tony Hawk because that game is so good. But I mean, it could be that 120 people at that studio were like, we have to do another fucking remake, but they're really good at their jobs, so they made a great remake. It's just so hard to know what is going on internally there. And to me, that's the like angle where I go, man, fuck Activision and fuck Blizzard. Is it would be great for more transparency when this kind of shit happens, where
Maybe
you could
we'll
know
get
what
something
they're.
at BlizzCon, and they'll be like, and here's what Vicarious Visions is making.
Yeah, I don't think that they're going to be retaining some kind of identity. I'm sure they're just getting folded into Blizzard, and I'm sure some of the people that work at Vicarious Visions will be making Overwatch skins.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to me that there's like people immediately jump to, and that sucks when it's like, well, there's people who in their free time do art of Overwatch characters.
Yeah.
So you never know. Some of the people that are going to those jobs may think making Overwatch skins is a dream job. I don't know.
So where it's like, where I kind of fall on is, you know, I'm glad they're just keeping jobs and not just getting laid off.
True.
You know, because Activision can do that. But yeah, it sucks in terms of the like. If
it sucks for us.
One less studio means like it's not like sudden. It doesn't mean like there's a new Blizzard game being created. Like they're gonna get folded into other teams. Like it's just one less game or like one less studio that Activision has making stuff. And like especially after they laid off so many people like in the last 2 years or whatever, and they're like, oh, we have to staff back up. Like, are you fucking kidding me? So it sucks from the like diversity of like what is being created and like studios out there. And then I also saw some people speculating like, does this mean that whatever Blizzard is working on, Overwatch 2, Diablo 4, is that stuff in like a bad spot? And they're like, we need to bring in more people, but like also why fold them in? Is it just like, would it look bad if they had like from Blizzard and Vicarious Visions? Is that like not kosher?
I don't think that's how Blizzard does things. Yeah, I think that's totally
maybe that's
the
it.
issue, and I think it sucks. I don't think that they should. I think they should. I think in a perfect world, if they needed support, they would have said, hey, Vicarious Visions is working with Blizzard on Overwatch 2. That would have been the much more friendly way to go about it.
Because Bungie, like Vicarious Visions, did a lot of their expansion stuff, like the smaller ones, not the big like Beyond Light type stuff or like the Taken Kings type stuff.
But I think that Blizzard is I bet they're a mess right now. I bet my suspicion is that Overwatch 2 and Diablo 4 are both very much in.
Was Overwatch 2 announced when like Overwatch League was still like hot shit?
Yes.
But I don't know if Overwatch 2 Overwatch has like, I know like because of the pandemic, obviously there's no events. I don't know what the esports scene with Overwatch is right now.
Overwatch 2 sounds like a map pack.
It's got like the single player.
It has the co-op, but
the co-op and like the new like new characters and stuff like that. But
but that was something that was still coming to Overwatch almost up until when they released or when they announced Overwatch 2. The
but
new
like
character came out at that BlizzCon, I think.
But like a new like swath and not just like here's one. It'll be like, I assume it's like here's like a new like
here's 4
characters, maybe.
I don't think it's like
and
a
then
new,
like going forward to like because new characters going forward, but
because it's all tracks back to Overwatch 1 too. So you don't have to if you don't buy Overwatch 2, you don't get the new characters, but you get the new maps.
And you can play with those new characters and stuff like that. So,
against with other people playing that. So I bet my suspicion is that Overwatch 2 is the kind of thing that it's like Blizzard's going, this doesn't feel like a sequel, and there's probably people internally that are not happy with that because that's again not how Blizzard does things. And I don't know,
but they've also like positioned it as not a sequel, as just like an expansion. So like calling it Overwatch 2 is also like a weird thing.
My only hope for Overwatch 2, because I like Overwatch, I just hope that they get away from loot boxes and take some notes from Call of Duty on how to do cosmetic progression. If they do that, I'll play a bunch of Overwatch 2, even if it is just an expansion. But I don't know.
I can't get excited about Overwatch anymore. Like I liked it when it came out, and then I fell off, and it was well made. I have no desire to go back.
Diablo 4 to me has always seemed like a game that they have to make, not a game that they want to make.
At least Diablo Immortal sounds like it's good for what it is.
Yeah, they didn't make it though.
Oh yeah, I guess it's contracted out.
Yeah, it's a Chinese company that made it. It sounds cool, but it's not a Blizzard game. And the stuff that they have shown of D4 is definitely like, wow, that looks awesome. Like my friend group is really excited for Diablo 4, but I have a sneaking suspicion that as cool as like the skill trees and shit look, it's not in a great place in terms of, is this fun to play? And I hope I'm wrong.
Never been fun to play.
Well,
Diablo 2 is cool.
Think it's overrated for sure. I don't know if I'll go so far as to say it's not fun to play. I think that the series is a little overrated though.
Well, yeah, that was a nice long chat about Blizzard and Vicarious Visions.
And I want to make it clear too, I'm in support of the people at Vicarious Visions more than anything. So I don't want to try to like downplay or minimize the degree to which it sucks. I'm just trying to point out that as fans, we often assume things about studios and people that we don't know the answers to. So
yeah, it's pure suspicion. We don't actually know what's going on internally.
Totally.
Next up, we did talk a little bit about Valve, and speaking of, Gaben says Valve has more games in development and announcements will be coming.
Yeah.
What do we think they got?
I think In the Valley of the Gods is still coming. I think it's just a work on it when you want to. I mean, Valve's structure seems to be pretty slide your desk around.
Yep.
You want to write Dota lore for a week? Go talk to Brad Muir. You want to work on Half-Life for a week? The door's open.
It's interesting. I don't know.
Well, I can only ask Pat this because Half-Life 3.
Oh yeah, that's, you kidding me? I bet we're going to be playing that in 3 years, I think.
Okay.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, I wonder if it's going to be about games that we aren't playing. As in, like, I wonder if it's going to be stuff like, we're going to do a new Counter-Strike, we're going to do a new Team Fortress. Like, because I don't think, like, because they care about their esportsy stuff, like Dota. I don't think they're going to make a Dota 3. Like, I don't see why they would.
No.
But like, I could see a Team Fortress 3 coming out and being something.
I feel like they need to do maybe they don't. Like no one uses Source anymore. Like they did like Source 2 or something, right? Like they did like the new version of Source, but like even Respawn was using like 1.6 for Titanfall 2.
Heavily
like modified, but no one really, maybe they don't care because they've got like Steam and they're like a massive store, but if they were like, hey, we're gonna like make an engine showcase game like how Epic would do with like Gears of War or whatever.
I would say Half-Life Alyx is an engine showcase game though. Like,
yeah, maybe.
Like, but the thing about Source was the physics, right? Like that's what Half-Life 2 was all about, and it had all those stupid cinder block puzzles and the teeter-totter seesaws, whatever you call them.
Yeah.
And like Half-Life Alyx, I haven't played it. I want to, but I don't have a VR set. Like it had like the fluid dynamic stuff, like you could pick up the bottles and like all that.
That was all just a shader.
Right, but like that's fine. Like that kind of technology is stuff that people can use in an engine, and that's what they're like. That's what those games are doing, and they're also showcasing like, hey, you can do this with VR. So like they are still kind of making engine showcasey stuff. Just it feels like engines across the spectrum have just gotten so much better. Like even Unity, which was tiny 10 years ago, is huge now, and it does everything.
Hearing people seeing devs talk about Unity on Twitter just makes it sound like the worst thing in the world right now. But they're all very capable like programs and engines and machines. Right.
Yeah, like it is a capable engine. It can suck to work in.
Yeah,
that's those are mutually exclusive, I would say.
Yes.
If my understanding of how Valve works, and I don't have any deeper insight than anybody else, but my understanding is that there's like probably documents on a file share server that say Left 4 Dead 3, Half-Life 3, Counter-Strike Global Offensive 2, Team Fortress 3, like I'm sure that people have thought about those things and written about them and thought and like put serious thought into them in some capacity. And it's more like, is this the thing that we're feeling is hot right now that we want to push on? And I would speculate that they don't need to make another Counter-Strike ever again. I think they could probably add stuff to Counter-Strike Go forever. Same with Dota 2.
Like they're both kind of platforms at this point, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And people who play those games don't really care about visuals, so they don't need a huge visual update. I suspect a Team Fortress 3 will come eventually, because that seems like the kind of game that, like, Team Fortress 2 was so popular, and I know people still play it, but it went from being like a ubiquitous, like, it went from being a sort of thing like League of Legends, where like I could always find people any time of day, any day of the week who would be up for playing a game of Team Fortress 2. And I think maybe TF3 will happen.
I played so much Team Fortress 2 in high school.
It's a great game.
That was like all I did.
It is a really
fantastic
good
game.
Sam mentions in our chat Dota 2.
Oh, it's a ballet game.
What they've done the thing is about Dota 2 is they've actually made like 2 more games. They've made
totally.
I mean, Dota 2, they're basically on like Dota 4.5 now. They just don't ever change the name of it.
Because like
League is the same way.
Yeah,
they
totally.
have their patches. Like you have like your 6 point whatevers, and then when they moved it to 7 point whatever, they changed a ton of it. And now are they on 8 point whatever? I don't know. But
I don't know.
Like,
I haven't
they're
looked at the
constantly
client in
changing
a
that
long
game.
time. But yeah,
there's one property we haven't been talking about, and I don't know why, because it was so popular. Portal. I don't think they need to make another one.
No, I think it's I think outside of Half-Life, like Half-Life 3, or whatever they call it, like a sequel to Half-Life 2 Episode 2, and
Sure.
So outside of that, and maybe like a Team Fortress 3, I think they need to do new IP. Like,
I'm sure. So my suspicion is that, look, Valve has they're the company more than anybody else who can afford to say, we're going to blow $50 million on a VR game, even though it's not going to make its money back, just because we can. And I suspect that there is new IP coming that fills in that space some, because they want to justify people's purchases of indexes, basically. And the only game that really does that right now is Half-Life.
Definitely.
From what I've heard, that Walking Dead game is really, really good. Saints and Sinners. So it's like AAA quality, really, really well done. But anyway, I think that's they're probably looking at the VR space for some new IP, and I think that In the Valley of the Gods game will come out. I really do. It might take 5 years, but
I just hope they pull away from. I hope they give an option for those of us who went, you know what, I don't need this VR headset, or whatever, because especially with how like the Quest is overwhelmingly becoming. The Quest 2 is overwhelmingly becoming like the popular thing, and people are going, wait, what do you mean I can't play PC VR on this because my PC's a potato? Is like, but they should make stuff that makes index owners feel good about their purchase, but also I'll be pissed if Half-Life 3 is VR only.
No, I don't think it will be. With how, no spoilers, but with how Half-Life Alyx ends, it is impossible to me. I mean,
inconceivable.
It is inconceivable that they are not working on Half-Life 3, and I know that was true of Half-Life 2 Episode 2 as well, but at the time that Half-Life 2 Episode 2 was developed, there was clearly intent to continue making them. It just fell away.
It got away from them.
And so for them to come back to Half-Life with this incredible VR game and end it the way that they do, and then do it again, would be like, I don't believe, with the slate of people who are working there now, when you look at people like the Campo people and Brad Muir and like people who have voiced passion for Half-Life as fans in the past, I don't think that they're going to let it fall away again. I think it'll be, like I said, I'm guessing 3 years before we play it. But
because I mean, at some point, like, you know, they've got to put something, like they're putting out hats for TF2, and a lot of those are community created. They're putting out like Dota skins and like, you know, patches for that. And
CSGO gets pretty heavy development, I'll say.
Okay.
But I can't believe that those people that are working, I don't think the Half-Life people and the CSGO people are necessarily the same people, you know?
Well, yeah.
Like, in terms of like, what interests you as a developer.
It's not like Valve is a small company. Like, you know, they're a big company.
They have a few hundred employees, yeah.
Yeah, like it would be weird if all of those people were only working on like support for like continuing dev for what they already have out.
Around 400 employees.
Yeah.
So pretty big.
I mean, I'm not joking when I say this. There is continued development on Dota Underlords and Artifact also.
Yeah.
I don't
right.
like those teams they
gotta be small, right?
Like
20 people maybe.
And we know they're not moderating Steam.
No. That's what I was going to say, is that I'm sure that a quarter of those people maybe are support staff for Steam, but I can't imagine that's most of the company. So I'm sure that they're working on stuff. And if anything, Valve is an example of a company, they should moderate Steam better. So certainly I'm not trying to like white knight them, but I think it's awesome that they're this black box. That, I mean, good for them. Like, hire crazy talented people and have them work on whatever, because when projects do finally trickle out, they're incredible. They
kick big butt.
They're the best. I can't think of a Valve release that isn't an example of the best of its genre at the time it comes out. Like
Artifact.
I don't know. Artifact to me, I mean,
is interesting and is definitely.
I think you can make an argument that mechanically it was the best digital card game when it came out. But I mean, it just fell flat.
Ricochet.
Yeah, well, sure.
That's the only one I can think of. I don't know.
How long ago was that? That was from like the 90s, right?
No, it came out around the same time as Half-Life 2, I think.
Okay.
So 2004.
Sure.
Looking it up.
But yeah, I don't know. Like
it's 2000.
If we have to wait another 4 years to play another game and it's as good as Half-Life Alyx, then I can live with that.
Yeah, totally.
Like, there are developers that take longer to put out their games and stuff. It's not like but like this, when they do, it's never what you want. Like, it's always like they put out a lot of little stuff. Like, you know, they did like Artifact took a lot of work, because like creating like a card game is a lot of work, and like the balance and stuff in there. But like in terms relatively simple in terms of like,
and niche too.
It's not like you don't have like huge environments to create,
right.
And
no,
like
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Sure. Like they put out the lab, right?
Yeah.
Like that was just kind of a weird little esoteric.
It's like
thing.
yeah.
They put out something else. Did they make that Portal Bridge Simulator, or do you think they?
No, that was.
It's not showing up on. It's not on their Steam thing. That's just the bridge builder people or whatever, because they just did like a Walking Dead bridge builder.
Oh, okay.
Like what? Okay.
Yeah, but stuff like the lab, like the lab thing that has like, it's a smaller project that probably a very small team put together and just put out there. Like I would love to see them doing more experimental stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just get out of the VR stuff. But anyway, keep doing the VR stuff, but make more stuff. All right. Speaking of, we could, I don't even know. Capcom did an event for Resident Evil 8 Village. Where this year, I guess, is the 25th anniversary of Resident Evil as a game franchise, or as a franchise, and they were showing off the first gameplay like segments, and not just like a trailer. I kind of skimmed through, like I'm gonna play that game. I don't need to watch anything.
Same. Yeah, I didn't watch it because I'm gonna play it. So, but
there's a demo out for PS5 only. What the fuck? Like,
sorry, Andre.
Nobody owns a PS5. What the fuck are they doing? Apparently it's really short, so I think they know that nobody owns it, so they didn't waste too much time on it.
Well, the demo's really short, but you know it's not really short.
The vampire lady with the boobs.
She's cool. She's a cool hat.
Crazy
I like
the
her
hat. Yeah. Everybody is horny for the vampire lady.
I'm not
Everyone.
I'm not particularly horny for the vampire lady. I think she's cool.
Everyone.
I understand why people are horny for her, and I support it.
She's going to give you 2 more holes.
I've enjoyed
on your neck.
I've enjoyed more. Case in point, I've enjoyed more people's horniness over the vampire lady than I have the vampire lady herself.
It's been really funny. It's been really funny to watch.
Just the amount of I love that bubbling beneath the surface of gaming Twitter have been a lot of I think mostly joking, but if you go into streamers mentions and stuff, you'll see things like step on me, vor me, things like that. And I appreciate that that's just fully broken through into main gaming Twitter with the introduction of Tall Vampire Lady. I've seen a lot of people wanting to be crushed by the vampire lady.
And also the vampire lady's subordinates, apparently.
Yeah, and I'm definitely not kink shaming, but it's been funny to see.
So that demo out now. Game is out in May. I forget exactly, May 22nd or something.
Let's look it up.
I believe it's May 22nd.
I kind of want to play the demo, even though I have 7 other Resident Evil games to play first.
Well, it's not from the game. It's a separate thing, which is cool.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of thing they did with Resident Evil 7, where the demo itself is the demo is a separate thing, and it takes place in the in a section of Resident Evil 8 or Village, but it's you're not playing the main character.
Yeah. May 7th, 2020.
Oh, 7th. Okay. Well, it's a whole 2 weeks earlier than I thought. That's good. And
I look forward to hearing you talk about that game and arguing for it at Game of the Year.
I hope. Because I was let down last time. Part of the reason I might have been let down was because they put out a multiplayer game called Resident Evil Resistance last year, along with Resident Evil 3. And I think it was a co-op, it was asymmetric, 4v1. But this year they're doing away with that. Instead, they're putting out a 6-player deathmatch game, third person. You play as characters like Leon and Claire and Papa Joe. Is it Papa Joe? The daddy from Resident Evil 7, and Nemesis, and all that stuff in in a death match in places like Raccoon City Police Department.
If what it is a third person MOBA, I'll fucking try that. It's just 6 people in a death match. It's
Jack.
Maybe they're Jack Baker. There we go, Jack. Yeah. There are objective type things. It wasn't super clear from what they showed, but I was like,
they should make it
doing this again.
They should make it super fucking complicated, and if you queue as Nemesis, that's one, you don't get any teammates. If you queue as certain characters, then you get one other teammate, and then some characters join a 3-person team. Just make it really convoluted so that you never know what you're going to be facing when you queue.
Is Ada Wong good or bad?
I don't know that it
doesn't sound like it matters if you're good or bad.
It's just everyone is against everyone.
Everybody's here,
and everyone's everyone's got different abilities. So Jack has a chainsaw, whereas other characters have guns.
I mean,
or
I fucking love that kind of stuff. Obviously, so
I don't know.
I'm way more interested in it than the co-op thing.
People want them to do Outbreak, bring back Outbreak. It doesn't. There has been a resurgence of Outbreak support. there has been a resurgence of Outbreak support in the like people are playing it online. Like it has actually gotten pretty popular.
The idea of
have
Outbreak
you ever-
is so much better than the game.
I was gonna say, have you ever played Outbreak? Because it's not very good.
I'm just telling you what I've seen, like people streaming, and
fair.
like like there has been a community that is like bubbled up around the Outbreak games. I mean, people like Resident Evil streamers that I watch want them to do a new Outbreak or remaster Outbreak 1 and 2.
I'm not trying to be an
File 3.
asshole. I'm not trying to be an asshole here because Resident Evil is a series I still would love to like to have the gears catch and have it be a Kingdom Hearts for me one of these days where I play all of the games and love them all. But the first game was great when it came out because it was so innovative and interesting. And then 2 and 3 have really cool concepts in them at times, but are not necessarily great to play. And then 4 was incredible. Maybe one of the best games, certainly one of the best games of its genre ever.
It defined the genre in a lot of ways.
Yes. 5...
It's got good co-op.
Yeah, but it's got a lot of problems narratively and gameplay wise.
No, yes, it's just got good co-op.
6 is bad.
It's got decent co-op.
Yeah.
I like calling the monster the Hoobastank.
Yeah, no, I want to play 6 because it sounds like there's dumb shit in there that I want to see.
I'll play 6 with you, but
yeah, that sounds great.
Time commitment is
someday we should.
Yeah, when I'm on spring break, we'll play Resident Evil 6.
7 sounds great for the most part. So, like, I guess the point I'm trying to make here is it's not like every game in the series is a banger when it comes out in terms of gameplay. So it's usually that the concepts are so interesting and they reach for cool weird shit, which I would rather see them do than.
You forgot Code Veronica, which is actually one of the best.
Yeah, and also I've heard Revelations is really good.
I should play Revelations. That's one I haven't played.
Was that the one on the boat?
Obviously there's more games.
There's 2 of them. There's there's 2 Revelations games, and they're like apparently both really good.
So I guess my point is just they should keep reaching for doing weird dumb shit.
Yeah, they should make more. They should make Umbrella Corps 2.
Yeah, like they keep doing a lot of really dumb shit that nobody wants from Resident Evil
until like 10 years from now. Is what I'm saying. In 10 years, people are going to go like, wait, that was cool, actually.
Operation Raccoon City. I was actually really excited for Operation Raccoon City, then I never played
Seemed
it.
like it should have been cool.
I wanted to play it even when I found out it was bad. I wanted to play it. I was just at a point in my life when that game came out where I didn't have the income to buy bad games.
Me too.
Now I can afford to buy bad games on premise because I want to try them, even though they're bad. And I wish that.
And you got a bit more security. You're like, oh wait, no, this is like bad in a way that I don't want to engage with at all.
Totally.
Yeah. Resident Evil, and they're remaking 4 again, right? Or like it sounded like it was maybe off the table, but now it's back on the table.
Revisiting their plans. There was a new story. I haven't looked at it, but it's not like they're reevaluating. They've overhauled their plans.
Does the 4? I guess I would like to see better mouse and keyboard support for 4. That would be cool.
On the Wii. Apparently, that's the best version.
The Wii version is amazing.
Yeah, I played some of it on the Wii actually. I think that's the only place I played it. Now that I think about it,
that's where I beat it the first time. Actually,
I didn't finish it though. I got all the way to where it like the turn where things go fucking off the rails and the Napoleon
the giant statue
kid.
Oh,
I don't remember the giant. I mean, when you're in the church and stuff,
like the castle.
Sure.
Like,
yeah.
You have not yet begun to.
I know. I know. Yeah. I know.
Stuff is so weird.
I should play a Resident Evil 2 remake on PC this year is what I should do because I want to play those games with a device where I'm good at aiming. Because like we talked about with Resident Evil 2 remake the year it came out, my issue was purely that I hate aiming. I hate doing precision aiming with a controller, and that kind of killed my experience because I should be able to just shoot their legs like we've talked about and then have a good time with that game, but I couldn't do it because I'm bad at aiming with a controller. So
I'm looking at this story about Resident Evil 4 remake, and the rumors and like the scuttlebutt that is in this Video Game Chronicles story is that, was it 2M game M2, which was like a studio funded by Capcom, made up of like a bunch of like ex-Platinum people, was heading the development, and then they got taken off the lead on it. They're still like helping and supporting, but they got taken off the lead because they wanted to stick very faithfully to Resident Evil 4, partly because of the Resident Evil 3 remake backlash.
Yeah.
And this game has been in development since 2018. So like that like, you know, they were like, oh, well, see, Resident Evil 3, we gotta stick closer to what people expected. And but Capcom is apparently, the new production team is apparently, while they're inspired by the original, they want their own unique take on features, story elements, and environments, not necessarily confined to the blueprint of the original. So closer to Resident Evil 2 than just doing like a, hey, and here's the game remade with more modern sensibilities. So hopefully if they do that, 2023 is what the story says. If it's, you know, it might be delayed to then, but nothing official has been announced in any way. So, you know, you can't really delay stuff, but yeah, it's I'll play it. It's I am generally excited for like a Resident Evil game that isn't like a co-op or like a multiplayer thing. So
I would love to see the Iron Maidens rendered in full fidelity.
Sure,
Because
the regenerators.
The Iron Maidens and the regenerators, like those monsters are fucking crazy.
I want Village to be the thing. I want them to finally be like, yeah, we've said it's a virus all along, but actually it's magic. Ta-da,
Now there's
magic.
werewolves.
This isn't Metal Gear Solid. There's no magic.
That's just the thing. That's I don't know, it's
Nanomachines?
such a bad hang up, but that's always
There
been the
is
thing.
magic in Metal Gear Solid, though.
Yeah, that's always
is.
been the thing that causes my gears to slip on Resident Evil. Is it's just like, oh no, this is supernatural.
It's bioterrorism, baby.
It's all just biotech stuff.
It's
I don't know
pseudoscience
why, but
up the wazoo.
I don't know why, but for some reason that makes me so much less interested in it.
Well, God, we're going long without even like trying to, because we talked for so long about Hitman. This last story or
It's
two
really
be quick
good.
though.
Yeah.
Playdead, creators of Limbo and Inside, has a new game in the works. It's an open world third-person sci-fi adventure. There's some screenshots that look mostly just like, here's what we're
Environments.
going for with tone.
Yeah.
So
I think if Allison was here, she would have more to say about it because she's the Playdead fan among us, really.
I mean, I liked
Playdead.
Inside.
Yeah.
I didn't
but
really
she's
care
like-
for Limbo, but
She's ultra into it, I would say.
Yeah. I like Limbo more than Inside, I think, personally.
I'd be interested in seeing what they're doing. I didn't particularly like Inside, but they're a great studio.
and then I have no idea what this last news story. Jack, Mass Effect 2, pansexual, Fox News, what?
Yeah, so
what
this
is
came up.
About this.
Yeah, this came up yesterday, where essentially it was revealed that in the original drafts and the original scripts and stuff like that, that Jack was actually a pansexual character and didn't matter gender, whatever you were, but they reworked her into being a straight character because Fox News was getting all uppity about getting into video game controversies. So they literally changed it.
I thought she's at least can you not romance her if you're playing as a woman?
I don't believe so.
No,
I thought you
don't
could.
think so.
I haven't played it as much as most people, so I only played through that game once. So
Yeah. So people are
think
basically.
can you even romance her in Mass Effect 2? I thought you couldn't in Mass Effect 2.
so.
So it was only Mass Effect 3.
Couldn't you?
yeah, I
thought
don't
you
know
could.
actually.
But either way, like, people are saying that, well, now that the Legacy or Legend collection, whatever, the new collection that's coming out, that they're saying, oh, you guys should, be a bit braver and actually make that the way it was supposed to be. So who knows?
Yeah, I don't think that that's an option at this point.
It was because of the
coming out like
coverage of
May or
Mass Effect
something.
1. It was because of the coverage of Mass Effect 1. And like, because they were all like, oh, they got the sex scenes with the aliens.
Yeah. Like,
Well, I guess there's.
I don't know. What's up?
Yeah, they've
Cowards.
said that the Mass Effect remakes, the Legendary Edition, is supposed to come out sometime in the spring. I doubt that they have time to add something that
Story.
substantial to it. It would be cool though.
Yeah. It would
I
be
mean,
cool.
we don't know how long they've been working on it.
I only played Mass Effect 2 once through as a male character, and I assumed that you could romance her if you were playing as a woman, but it's wild to me that you can't. I mean, I just looked and you cannot. She does only have heterosexual romance options. So that would have been particularly jarring to me if I played that game and tried to romance her as a woman and not been able to, because she seems to be written as a pansexual character, even if the romance options aren't there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And basically she was. It's just they turned it off.
Yeah.
Like they just cut that off. That's stripped off. So
It was such an interesting time in video games. There was a lot of like concern around political controversy that there just isn't now.
Yeah.
Well,
there's a lot more to worry about, a lot more to feign outrage over and whatnot. Kind of in a similar vein to this is back to Cyberpunk. Judy Alvarez is a lesbian character, and that made a lot of people mad when they're like, well, I wanted to romance her, but I'm a dude. I'm like, that's how
her.
life works, I guess. That's her. But then they found that there were voice lines recorded with the male voice actor who for the romance sequence with her. And and then they were removed from the game once people found them. They're like, oh yeah, no, those were just there for in case we needed them. And like that tells me that at some point they were trying maybe to have like your voice not dictate your gender maybe in the game, because that is like a weird thing they do. Gender or your voice dictates your pronouns and stuff, but maybe at some point they weren't going to do that, but it just became like a logistical hurdle that they were like, we can't do this and get this game out. But I haven't seen anything like official on that, other than we took the voice out because it wasn't supposed to be there. It was just left over. Classic stuff. Well, that's gonna do it for this episode of the podcast. Still under 3 hours. We did it.
Yeah, we did it.
This is a good sign for when we have 4 or 5 people on, more games to talk about, more news.
We can talk about Hitman 3 for 4 hours.
I think Hitman 3 conversation is largely exhausted, so
Probably.
it's going to be a lot of backlog talk for a bit.
Well, I mean, frankly, like I was saying earlier, there's really not that much coming out.
That's
in the future. Hopefully there will be indies that will just come out and we'll be surprised by, and they will kick big ass. But like, in terms of, I don't know about you guys, but in terms of what I'm planning to play, it's like there's not that much, and I might dive back into the backlog stuff some more, like last year with Umineko and Final Fantasy and stuff.
Yeah.
So
the only stuff coming out is stuff for the most part that I feel like I need to play out of obligation. Like more and more, actually, I don't think it's going to come out this year, but more and more like God of War Ragnarok is a sort of like, well, I'm going to play it because I don't want to get spoiled on it because maybe I care.
I think that's going to come out this year.
I don't think it is either, but I wouldn't say I'm excited for that game. Ratchet, I'm excited for that. That'll be cool. I think that'll be this year. I don't think Horizon's going to come out this year.
Another game I won't be able to play.
If Horizon comes out, it's going to be like, sorry, Andre, it's going to be like holiday probably. And I'm not that excited for that game, actually, even though I love the first one so much. So I'm still, Deathloop is still can't fucking wait for that.
That'll be great.
Yeah.
And Deathloop were the only games this year that I was like, I really fucking want these as soon as possible.
Well, you'll get. Oh, it's not. That's not even. Wait, what? Why is what? What am I looking
Is the Vampire the Masquerade supposed to be out this year? or 2?
I think so.
Yeah, it got delayed to this year.
I have very tempered expectations for that game.
I hope it's good.
If it's good, it could be my game of the year, you know, if it's because
Totally.
Bloodlines 1 is one of my favorite games of all
It's amazing.
time.
I love that game too, yeah.
I really think people should play Bloodlines 1 this year. If you are a person who has not played Bloodlines and you listen to this podcast and you have a PC, even if it's kind of a clunker because Bloodlines is old.
Oh, it's old.
Play Bloodlines 1. Bloodlines 1 is so good. It combines like if you were excited about Cyberpunk and disappointed, fucking play Bloodlines 1. Really.
It's really good.
I mean, it's not a Cyberpunk game genre-wise, but it's an immersive sim in the way that I think a lot of people were hoping Cyberpunk would be. With big open environments and lots of cool quests, and it's a killer game.
Isn't the next East coming out soon?
Yeah, East 9. That's what sparked this. That's in February. So it's kind of, I'm excited to play that, very excited, but I want to play, 8 other games before it. So
well, there's there's not a lot for you to like distract you in the meantime.
That's what I mean. Yeah. And what's nice about East
out in a week.
East is a niche enough game that I can play it in May or whenever I get through these games, and there won't be spoilers everywhere. So, it's. I played the demo for Yeast 9, and that's what made me go, I should play these games because it fucking rules. But it's very similar to Genshin Impact, a little game that some people may or may not have heard of. Modern Yeast games have you like cycle through a party of characters, and they all do different stuff. And
Paimon is there.
I wish Paimon was in everything.
I watched Hereditary, and there's a thing.
Speaking of Genshin Impact,
speaking of Paimon, actually, is a very different interpretation of Paimon in Hereditary.
Yeah, Paimon's a name for a Shakespearean character.
Yeah, just was like, oh well, that's quite a different thing than. But
friend
that's
of mine,
gonna do it.
Totally unrelated. A friend of mine's been watching Umbrella Academy and thinks it's terrible. I've never watched it. Have you ever watched it?
Yeah, it's fine. Like,
wait, which one?
Umbrella Academy.
Oh,
it's the Gerard Way.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I have a friend who likes it a lot. I've heard it's very divisive. I think I would probably like it if I watched it.
Yeah, I've heard 2 friends say they think it's absolutely terrible. So I'm like, I've heard both, and I'm like, I'm kind of interested in seeing, but
there are things to like and things to like dislike. I was a fan. Like, I liked it enough to watch the 2 seasons, and I will watch the 3rd. But
this is not meant in any way as this is like an honest guess, not like because you don't like stuff I like, Alex. This is not what I'm saying at all. Based on what I read of the graphic novel that Gerard Way wrote that Umbrella Academy is based on, I'm not sure you would like it, but I would be interesting to hear your take on it regardless, because I always am. Oh, I'm going to play 13 Sentinels this year too. I own that now.
Sure. It's a good game. I don't know why people are shitting their pants over it, but it's good.
I maintain, I think it's just people, it's a lot of people who don't play like stories that do like the similar kinds of things, whereas you play a lot of stories that do similar things with like the narrative. And so like when they're being like first exposed to it, it's like opening their third eye.
Maybe.
Yeah. Bouncing on your boy's third eye.
I'll report back. I'd like to play that and Steins Gate this year. Those are 2 goal games on my list.
Who are you, and why are you doing this anime crimes to Pat?
Well, the thing about Steins Gate is I watched the first season of the anime and really liked it. So I know that I'll enjoy it when I get to it. It's not I'm taking a big chance on Steins Gate. I know I'll like it, even with my aversion to visual novels.
But deeper.
Yeah.
And anime crimes and Pat.
And at a pace that I think I'll like more than trying to follow the anime, because the anime was very difficult to follow for me as much as I liked it.
Anyways,
I don't know what I'm up to next.
Talk.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to do it for episode 156 of the Gaming Fix. Is that like a
Exerd?
Guilty Gear?
Yeah,
Like
50
Revel-
Exerd.
150 Exerd Revelator Dash
Revelator's a really good subtitle for a game.
Revengeance.
Anyway,
Beta Plus Max.
I love Guilty Gear.
now we're talking about DJ Max.
Sign.
Max Respect for January 22nd, 2021. I have been your host, Andre Cole, aka your partner's favorite sea shanty. You can find me on Twitter at Coolslaw, COOLSL4W, where I will be demanding Joe Biden give us all 2,000 Bitcoins.
You should do that daily.
Maybe I will.
That should be your like Katie Delaney's "Today is the day Donald Trump finally became president."
Yes. It'll catch on eventually.
Or not Katie did. Megan Amran did that. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking that myself. You can find the podcast on Twitter at Fix Podcasts, and on the website fix.space you can find my review of Yakuza Like a Dragon. You can head over to podchaser.com/gamingfix to leave us a review, which we would really appreciate, or on your podcast platform of choice if they offer review functionality like in iTunes. People still use iTunes, I guess. I don't know. And Twitch at Gaming Fix. Is that right? Okay.
That's the gaming platform.
Yes.
Well,
the Twitch,
I mean,
yes.
you know,
it's not Fix Podcast on Twitch. It's Gaming Fix.
Pat, where can people find you?
Now that I have a nice camera, it makes me think about streaming more, which I think about a lot, but let's say I might do more and then never do. But you can find me at PJC Plays. You can also find me on episode 1 of Comic Book Fix, which is up, with episode 2 forthcoming, which I am not on. We're rotating hosts aggressively to keep it down to 2 hosts so that the episodes stay in the 30 to 40 minute range.
I'm still waiting on Scooby-Doo.
I know. I still want to do it too. It's just, it started to overlap with me also doing a podcast for work stuff that I'm not going to talk about. But now I'm like managing multiple podcast schedules. And so Scooby-Doo though is
you're gonna turn this into a real career someday.
It's not been binned, just backburnered, and it is still the plan to do it in 2021. So,
okay,
yes,
well, I'll be there. I'll be ready. And Alex, where can people find you?
I don't know. There's a new episode of Coding Fix coming out next week. Other than that,
what's it about? What, can you give us a sneak peek?
It's going to be about QA. I don't know what brought that up.
Okay.
Why could it possibly be? You know. What reason could that be there for that?
Who knows? Nobody knows but the nose.
The nose knows.
Nobody knows but the Noid.
Nobody knows what the Noid knows.
The Noid is coming for you.
Oh, I don't want that. No.
Yo, Noid.
He's gonna get stopped at the border, so you'll probably be fine.
We have Domino's here.
You have the Noid?
Probably. I think like if you get the Noid, you need your place fumigated.
So the Noid is more of like a noxious concept, not like a person.
An invasive species, yeah.
Oh. And the Noid might be from Georgia? I don't know.
We'll come back next week with the answers to all these burning questions that we know you, the listener, have. Thanks for joining me.
Wait.
Bye. Oh, yeah,
on Wikipedia, the occupation that the Noid has is, quote, ruining pizza.
I am also looking at the Wikipedia entry for the Noid, and it's very funny.
It's so good.
We just made the podcast title the Wikipedia link for the Noid.
Oh, now I'm seeing the rest of the Georgia connection, and I apologize for making that.
That stuff sucks.
It's actually very tragic. I didn't know about that.
Sucks.
So,
but ruining
that.
pizza is funny.
All right. Well, once again, thanks for joining me. Until next week. Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.